On Earth, in a city filled with tall buildings, while the people were busy walking on the streets, someone screamed. A guy woke up, and he asked what that sound was and what was going on. A lady screamed, and he asked the guy who he was. She looked at him with glaring eyes while covering herself with the sheets, and he looked so confused. The lady asked the guy what he was doing in her room and what he had done to her. The guy was baffled, and he asked himself what was going on there. He looked so confused as he recalled what he had done previously. The guy recalled that he was clearly in the middle of the universe. He looked so different. His hair was white and his eyes were red. The guy recalled that he was facing a huge monster and was in a decisive battle against the three overlords. Looking at his hands, he wondered what was going on there. Suddenly, he felt a panging pain in his head. He recalled that a man remarked that they should absolutely not let the waste bastard into the Yi family, and another man called him and told him to get the duck out of there. A man called him Yifeng, and as he declared that Yifeng was a piece of fish, he asked him if he claimed that he deserved to be named Yi. The men were ganging up on Yifeng, and one of them mentioned that they could see that he didn't even know how to fight back when hit, so they should kill him. Yifeng was troubled, and he wondered if he had been reborn in the body of a human on Earth. Suddenly, the lady grabbed a pillow and called Yifeng's attention. She threw the pillow in his face. The lady called Yifeng a bastard hooligan, and when she stated that he took her first time, she asked him how he was going to pay for that and demanded that he should say something. Yifeng fell off the bed. Suddenly, they heard a sound behind them, and the lady asked what that was. A lot of men were running in the hallway, and they shouted that they should be quick and hurry up. One of the men announced that goddess Lin Lan, the most beautiful president of Jiangxi City and one of the top 10 entrepreneurs of that province, has booked a hotel room with the bastard son of the Yi family, the one known as a good-for-nothing. So if they get a picture of them, it will be sensational news. And another man revealed that the bastard dared to sleep with the fiancée of the young master Gong Yunfei, and if Gong Yunfei finds out, he will skin him alive. Lin Lan was alarmed, and as she exclaimed that it was bad, she wondered why they knew she was there. She asserted that if that gets out, not only will the company get affected, but her fiancé will also definitely kill her. Meanwhile, Yifeng stood up from the floor. He glared ahead, and he announced that it was a trap. Yifeng explained that the owner of his body had nothing to do with Lin Lan, as both of them lost their consciousness after drinking some knockout drops and were thrown onto the same bed. And the purpose was to not only cause Lin Lan to lose all her standings and reputation, but also cause the owner of his body to die a humiliating death. But Yifeng wondered who wanted to harm the owner of his body. Meanwhile, outside the room, one of the men asked the other if he had his stuff. The other man replied that, of course, he did, and it was all thanks to young Master Hu for telling them such big exclusive news. Inside the room, Yifeng heard them mention young Master Hu. Yifeng recalled a scene where he was in a room and someone was screaming in pain. He was the man screaming, and while a man was pushing his face onto the floor, a blonde man questioned him for daring to resist and called him a son of a witch, and Yifeng pleaded that he should let him go. The blonde man stood up, and he inquired why the old man liked him so much. Yifeng glared at the blonde man as he stood in front of him. The blonde man was pissed, and he asked Yifeng if he was staring at him. He questioned Yifeng for daring to glare at him and called him a living piece of fish. Back in the present, Yifeng furrowed his brows as he finished recalling the memory. Yifeng glared, and while releasing a sinister aura, he accused Yihu. The sinister aura traveled across the room and went past Lin Lan. It passed by a potted flower and began to escape through the window. The potted flower was damaged when the sinister aura grazed on one of its leaves. The sinister aura wafted out of the building. It traveled across the city and turned the atmosphere red. The sinister aura moved past the buildings and across some trees in the city. Some people saw it as it flew past them, and they were astonished. The sinister aura brushed against other potted plants. It also moved across the dark alleys, which made the rats scutter away in fear. The sinister aura began to head towards the mountains and flew past the luscious forest. It began to gather in a single place, and it swirled. The sinister aura started to materialize into a man with black hair. The man was smirking as the sinister aura continued to materialize him. The sinister aura has also materialized and created his clothes. It was Yifeng, and he laughed maniacally when the sinister aura finished materializing him. He let out a deep breath as he tried to calm himself down, but he still continued to laugh. Yifeng glared ahead and uttered Yihu's name. As Yifeng started to walk back into the city, he commented that it was interesting. On the other hand, the men back at the hotel kicked the door open. They were startled when Lin Lan suddenly screamed and said that someone broke in and called them a thief. Seeing that Lin Lan was alone in the room, one of the men asked what was going on in there, while the other demanded where Yifeng was and how Lin Lan was the only one there. Lin Lan was surprised when she heard what they said, and she quickly turned to look behind her where Yifeng was standing previously. She was astonished when she saw that Yifeng was gone, and she said that he was obviously there earlier. Lin Lan noticed the potted plant, and she wondered how it withered. Meanwhile, outside the hotel, a car was parked. Yihu and another man were standing beside the car. He was lighting up a cigarette in his mouth with a lighter. Yihu laughed, and he declared that when the paparazzi sends out the news tomorrow, the son of a witch will be cut into pieces by the Gong family, and they will see how the old man will protect him. The man who was with him remarked that he was really smart and ruthless enough to get Yifeng drunk and throw him in the same room with Lin Lan rather than killing him himself when something in his pocket suddenly started to beep. He pulled out his phone from his pocket. It caught Yihu's attention when the man called him and announced that it was journalist Zhang on the phone. Yihu instructed that the man should hurry and pick up the call because the paparazzi must have gotten the snaps. He insisted that the man should remember to ask journalist Zhang to send him some of the photos because he wanted to see the bastard's desperate look, and the man picked up the call. The man was suddenly alarmed when he heard what journalist Zhang reported. Yihu got impatient, so he asked the man if he was done yet and what was taking him so long. But the man was still on the phone, and he agreed with journalist Zhang as he acknowledged that he got it. The man looked horrified as he turned to Yihu and revealed that journalist Zhang explained that only Lin Lan was inside the room. Yihu's eyes turned bloodshot when he was surprised by what he heard. He grabbed the phone from the man, and he demanded how it was possible. Journalist Zhang immediately confirmed that it was true and that they had turned the whole room upside down, and nobody was there except for Lin Lan. But Yihu declared that it was bullfish because he locked the witch and Lin Lan in the same room with his own hands, so there was no way he could not be there. Yihu was suddenly alarmed when he saw Yifeng walking towards him. Yifeng had a smile on his face as he called Yihu a direct descendant of the Yi family and asked if he planned all that. The man was startled, and as he called Yihu, he identified that it was Yifeng. But Yihu retorted that he could see that, so he should shut up. Yihu tossed the phone back to the man, and he cursed that those damned paparazzi let Yifeng get away. He asked Yihu what it would matter if he planned it and who he was to question him, and as he called Yifeng a son of a witch, he demanded if he dreamed of inheriting the Yi family. Yihu scoffed that Yifeng was just a waste, yet he wanted to inherit the Yi family and that it was not going to happen. He pulled a knife from his pocket. Yihu charged at Yifeng, and he threatened that since he had ruined his plan, he was going to kill him with his own hands. But Yifeng was unfazed, and he just smiled as he watched Yihu lunge at him with his knife. Yihu was surprised when Yifeng managed to dodge his attack. He continued to swing his knife at Yifeng, and as Yifeng continued to dodge, he taunted if he wanted to run and declared that there was no way he would make it back alive that day. Yifeng just scoffed at Yihu. He grabbed Yihu by the neck and demanded that he should stop playing, which made Yihu groan in pain. While Yihu was already screaming in pain, Yifeng mocked that it was him who wouldn't make it back alive that day, and when he asked him if he got it, he insisted that Yihu should say something. Yihu was already trembling in pain, and as he gritted his teeth, he glared at Yifeng. But Yihu was horrified when he saw that Yifeng was exuding a sinister aura with monsters behind him, and Yifeng menaced that he was wondering what he would taste like. Yihu cursed in his mind when he saw the monster that was about to devour him. His eyes were bloodshot, and he was trembling as he wondered what it was. Yihu quickly turned and ran away from the sinister aura. Yifeng just stood there while Yihu was running for his life as the sinister aura chased after him. Yihu ran towards the car, and as he demanded that they should hurry up, the man he was with immediately confirmed and hurried towards the car. The car doors shut, and the wheels screeched on the concrete as it turned aggressively. Yifeng just watched as the car Yihu was in sped up away from him. A few moments later, the car was already traveling across a bridge. The car was traveling at a high speed across the road. Inside, Yihu was shivering while he wondered if that was a hallucination earlier, and as he cursed Yifeng, he threatened that he would do something the next time he saw him. But he was cut off when the man he was with urged that he should look at the roof because it doesn't look right. Both of them looked horrified when they saw the weird symbol that appeared on the roof of the car. On the other hand, Yifeng did not move from where he was standing. But in his hand, he was generating the same symbol that was found on the roof of the car Yihu was riding. Yifeng suddenly crushed the symbol in his hand. Meanwhile, the car Yihu was in started to tremble, and Yihu cursed as he sensed that it was bad and something didn't feel right, so they should jump. As Yihu saw that the sinister aura began to appear, he yelled at the man he was with and urged that they should jump out of the car. The car exploded. A few moments later, the smoke from the explosion started to dissipate, and it revealed the car's debris that was scattered on the road. Yihu was lying on the ground among the fire and debris. He muttered that Yifeng was not a human. He was a demon. Yihu lost his consciousness while he kept thinking that Yifeng was a demon. Yifeng scoffed, and he declared that Yihu was just an insignificant ant, so he would let him live in the meantime. But he smiled sinisterly as he warned that if Yihu got in his way again, he would definitely kill him. The moon was shining so brightly in the sky as Yifeng walked away. A few moments later, Yifeng was standing by the riverbanks, and he was wondering how the demon planet was going and huing her. He recalled how a lady stood in front of her and protected him from an explosion when he was still in his original body. Yifeng gritted his teeth and cursed when some of the explosions hit him and he couldn't push through. He yelled and called Huinger. The lady protecting Yifeng was Huinger, and as she glanced at him, she called him Brother Yifeng. When the explosion was gone, Yifeng looked crestfallen as he held Huanger in his arms, and she whispered that she wasn't dumb. Huanger explained that she just wanted to protect Yifeng, and she doesn't wish to conquer the galaxy with him but only wishes to follow him, no matter life or death. A monster prepared to deliver another explosive attack while Yifeng was still holding on to Huanger. Back in the present, Yifeng looked up at the sky, and he pondered that since he had already been reborn, he was wondering about Huanger. Yifeng furrowed his brow as he mused that the silly girl is a star empress that even he would have to be wary of in his prime form, so there is no way something would happen to her. He smiled as he looked away from the sky. Yifeng started to walk into the water, and he murmured that Huanger should wait for him. The sinister aura was dripping from Yifeng into the river, and as he extended his arms, he proclaimed that he would return as the Demon King once again in the shortest amount of time. Yifeng's sinister aura traveled along the river. The sinister aura began gathering underwater, and it started to materialize Yifeng in it. Yifeng admitted that his body was still very weak. He began gathering his sinister aura around him. Yifeng grinned as he remarked that the planet has an abundance of living things. His original form came back, and he announced that their life force would all be his. Yifeng used his skill, soul-devouring art, birth. A lot of fish on the river started to lose their lives and float to the surface. The morning came, and at the riverside of whose city, a car was parked. An old man was fishing with a beautiful girl, and they were being guarded by multiple men. The girl was the old man's granddaughter, and when she called him grandpa, she noted that he had just gotten better, but there he was sneaking out to do some fishing, and if the family found out about that, they would make a scene. The old man laughed, and as he called the girl Xiaoi, he reassured that she didn't have to worry because his body is pretty tough, especially after his recovery, as he could feel that he could even kill a cow with just a slap. One of the men guarding them called the girl Miss Bai and reminisced that when her grandfather was still in the army, he was the king within the Sharp Sword Squad, and even though he has aged, his body has not deteriorated. Looking at her grandpa, Bai agreed that it was true. Bai remarked that her grandpa is the king of soldiers while her uncle Zhang is also the sparring king within the special squad, and both of them could handle 20, 30 experts, so she was probably just thinking too much. Suddenly, something took the bait on the old man's fishing rod, and when he noticed it, he exclaimed that he had caught something. The old man quickly pulled on the string to take out his catch, but the fish was so strong that the old man had to stand up to reel it in, so he shouted that it was a big one. When the old man noticed the fish's movement, he asked if it was trying to run. The old man quickly pulled the rod with all his might, and he managed to pull the fish out of the water. He, Bai, and Zhang were all surprised when they saw what he caught. It crashed on the ground, and amongst the dust and debris, a coat could be seen. Everyone stood in anticipation as they tried to figure out what it was. As the dust and debris continued to dissipate, it revealed Yifeng, who was scratching his head. Zhang quickly stood in front of the old man and cautioned that he should be careful because it was an enemy's attack. All the men began to charge towards Yifeng. The old man tried to stop them and urged that they should wait. Meanwhile, Yifeng noticed the men coming at him, and he glared at them. A huge explosion occurred, and it sent all the men flying. Yifeng grabbed one of the men by the neck, and he demanded to know who they were and why they were attacking him. Zhang was astonished, and he couldn't believe that Yifeng single-handedly dealt with all the bodyguards. He charged, and as he announced that he was coming, the old man called out to him and insisted that he should wait. When Zhang jumped off the ground, Yifeng dropped the man he was holding. Yifeng glared at Zhang to prepare for his attack. Zhang kicked Yifeng in the face while he was still mid-air. He gritted his teeth as he exerted so much force, and he exclaimed that he got Yifeng. While Zhang's feet were still on Yifeng's face, Yifeng did not move. Yifeng grinned at Zhang, and while Zhang was surprised that he blocked it, Yifeng asked him if he was seeking death. Zhang quickly jumped away from Yifeng, and as he shouted that it was impossible, he couldn't believe that Yifeng actually blocked his attack without moving an inch. He gritted his teeth, and he looked threatened. On the other hand, Yifeng was cracking his neck. Meanwhile, the other men who were blown away have managed to stand back up, and they stated that they should all attack together. They declared that they should charge, and they all lunged at Yifeng all together. But Yifeng released his sinister aura, and he was moving swiftly from one man to the other to attack them. Zhang was behind Yifeng when Yifeng finished attacking the other men. When he saw that Yifeng's back was facing him, he exclaimed that it was an opening and released a powerful aura in his fist as he charged towards Yifeng. Zhang's attack was about to hit Yifeng in the face when Yifeng noticed it. A huge explosion occurred when Zhang and Yifeng's attacks collided with each other. On the other hand, the old man was startled. He saw that someone was sent flying. It was Zhang, and as he crashed on the ground, he shouted that the old man and Bai Yi needed to run. Meanwhile, Yifeng called for their attention, and he proclaimed that Zhang was a bastard that was pretty strong because all he could do was break his arm after attacking with all his strength. Yifeng commented that they have ruined his clothes and asked if they shouldn't repay him with new ones, and in his mind, he thought that it seems that he shouldn't underestimate that world, so he should lay low for the time being and grow strength. When the old man heard Yifeng's demand for repaying his damaged clothes, he was surprised, and he wondered if he was not there to seek revenge. The old man grabbed something from his pocket. He handed a card to Yifeng, and while calling him a little friend, he apologized and admitted that they did in fact damage his clothes, so logically, he should be paying for the damage, and in his mind, he considered that Yifeng managed to break Zhang's arm with a single punch. So he definitely is someone that shouldn't be looked down upon, and if they were able to establish a relationship with him, he was sure that it would benefit the Bai family. The old man inquired what Yifeng's name was and asked if perhaps they could be friends. Yifeng immediately snatched the card away from the old man, and he responded that his surname is Yi. But he added that, as for being friends, he was afraid that the old man didn't have much time. The old man was astonished when he heard what Yifeng remarked. He looked so puzzled, and he was wondering what Yifeng meant. Yifeng explained that the old man currently looked like he was full of energy and glowing with vitality, but he revealed that the old man was about to die. The old man, Bai, and Zhao were all astonished when they heard what Yifeng asserted. Yifeng simply gave them a side eye and uttered nothing more. Zhao was enraged by what Yifeng mentioned, but as he was about to confront Yifeng, the old man stopped him and advised that he shouldn't be agitated. On the other hand, Bai was pouting, and she looked annoyed by what Yifeng did as well. She asked Yifeng what was wrong with him and complained that there were so many big shots that were trying to flatter their family to get on their good side, yet he dared to speak so harshly. Yifeng glanced at Bai and smiled. He clarified that he was just giving them a warning out of goodwill, and whether they wanted to believe him or not, the choice was theirs. The old man mentioned that earlier, when Yifeng was getting close to him, he had the illusion that he was facing an ancient, ferocious beast, and it was as if Yifeng could have killed him with a single finger. Zhao noted that the old man's instincts have always been accurate, so he asked if that meant that Yifeng was that dangerous. The old man affirmed that it was right, and as he asked Zhao if he knew who Yifeng reminded him of, he revealed that it was the legendary individual from the Ace Squad, which made Zhao ask the old man if he was referring to the god of war Longya, the legendary figure who has gone missing for many years, but he could not believe that it could be because Yifeng was so young that he could not be compared to him. Suddenly, Bai, who was standing near the river, called her grandpa and urged that he should quickly come and have a look. As the old man approached Bai, she announced that all the fish in the river were all dead. In a huge building, Yifeng was walking along the pathway, and he was getting the attention of the people around him. He was getting dirty looks from those people. Yifeng remarked that the previous owner of that body sure wasn't liked by the people there, but he didn't expect it to be that bad. As he approached the gates, Yifeng noted that his body was seriously weak, but fortunately, he could use his identity, and maybe he could better understand that world by going into that human school. Suddenly, someone asked if he was the rumored Yifeng who slept with the #1 most beautiful president, and if he had finally decided to show up after hiding for 3 days. Yifeng turned his head and glanced towards the person speaking. A blonde man was proudly standing while a woman was clinging to his arms. Yifeng immediately recognized them as Zhang Qiang and Yufei, and he explained that the girl called Yufei used to be Yifeng's girlfriend. But after getting to know Zhang Qiang, she broke up with him, and Yifeng was previously so obsessed with her that he was in depression for a very long time because of her. Zhang Qiang laughed, and he jeered that he wouldn't have believed that a bastard son like Yifeng would dare to come back when he has become quite a famous person in Jiang City. And not just the Gong family was looking for him, even his Yi family was also looking for him, so it seems that his puny life is about to be over. Yifeng couldn't care less about what Zhang Qiang was saying, and so he asked him if he was done talking, because if that was the case, he was going to go. Both Zhang Qiang and Yufei were baffled and speechless when Yifeng just walked away. Zhang Qiang suddenly felt rage, and he gritted his teeth. He went and grabbed Yifeng's coat. Zhang Qiang was grabbing Yifeng by the shoulder, and his expression looked dark. He called Yifeng a brat and accused that he seemed to have grown some balls because he dared to ignore him. Yifeng apologized and remarked that he had trouble hearing the sound of mole crickets. Zhang Qiang got more furious when he heard what Yifeng retorted. Yufei suddenly chimed in, and as she asked Yifeng who he thought he was, she demanded that she wanted him to kneel down immediately, and that she would ask Zhang Qiang to spare him that one time for the sake of how they used to be together. Zhang Qiang snickered when he heard what Yufei mentioned. He pulled Yufei close, and as he asserted that he finally got it, he asked Yifeng if he was perhaps angry because he took Yufei away from him. Zhang Qiang pointed at Yifeng and declared that a trash bastard like him is not worthy of Yufei. Yifeng recalled the scenes of the day Yufei left him. He looked crestfallen, while Yufei seemed to be looking down on him. Yufei was even breathing Yifeng, and she looked pleased with what she had done. The current Yifeng was speechless after he saw those memories. Yifeng looked disheartened. but he confidently asked Zhang Qiang if he should be angry for a girl like Yu Fei and if he declared that the thought was worth his anger. Yu Fei was embarrassed when Yifeng added and taunted that Zhang Qiang sure had quite the appetite because he was treating the trash that he had discarded like treasure. One of the bystanders called Yifeng trash and exclaimed that he sure was arrogant. Another bystander noted that Yu Fei is pissed, so Yifeng was doomed, and the guy he was with remarked that he bet that Zhang Qiang is about to slam Yifeng down to the ground. Meanwhile, Zhang Qiang was so angry that his eyes were bloodshot, and he raged that Yifeng was a scrub that sure has a sharp tongue and that Yu Fei truly loves him as she loves him to death. As Zhang Qiang cursed that Yifeng was just a piece of fish, a bastard, and a piece of trash that no one wants, he asked him what qualifications he had to go against him. Yu Fei chimed in and mocked that she was truly blind to think that she liked Yifeng in the past, and that a trash like him will definitely not be able to get a girlfriend in the future, so he is destined to be a lonely dog until he dies. But Yifeng just shrugged those insults off and remarked that he doesn't care if no one wants him, but they sure were a match made in heaven, a witch and a bastard being together, so he does want to congratulate the both of them. Zhang Qiang got more furious with what Yifeng retorted. As Yifeng walked away, Zhang Qiang charged from behind while calling Yifeng a scrub, and he yelled that he was really going to teach him a lesson that day. Yifeng warned that if Zhang Qiang dared to take another step, he was dead, and he glared as he started releasing his sinister aura. But a girl arrived and reprimanded someone for daring to do such a thing. Yifeng was startled when he saw who it was. It was Bai, and she proclaimed that Yifeng is her boyfriend, so anyone who dares to touch him will be considered an enemy of their Bai family. Zhang Qiang was frozen in place, and as he muttered that it was impossible, he wondered how goddess Bai could like trash like Yifeng. Meanwhile, Yifeng called Bai a little girl and asked her what she was doing there, to which Bai responded and declared that it was not his business and that she was not a little girl. While Bai and Yifeng were bantering about her grabbing onto his arm, one of the bystanders was astonished, and he exclaimed how it could be that the #1 beauty of their Jiang City University was Yifeng's girlfriend. As the guy continued and stated that it was crazy as the #1 campus beauty being together with the #1 trash was beyond illogical, Bai asked someone if they had heard what she had said earlier. The man gritted his teeth. Bai was talking to Zhang Qiang, and he muttered that Bai sure knows how to kid around, as he would never dare go against the Bai family. Bai coldly looked down on Zhang Qiang and declared that it was good. She smiled brightly as she called Yifeng darling, and she declared that since the matter was settled, they should go. But Yifeng did not respond, so she called for his attention. Bai was puzzled when Yifeng walked forward without saying anything. Yifeng went to face Zhang Qiang, and he proclaimed that he got lucky, so if he values his life, he should stop bothering him from that day onwards. He leaned forward and remarked that, as for Yu Fei, that woman has always been a slut, so he thanked him for taking over. Yu Fei panicked, and she tried to explain and protested that it was not like what Yifeng described. But she screamed in pain as she was hit across the face. Zhang Qiang hit Yu Fei and called her a whore and a used toy. He questioned Yifeng for daring to do such a thing, and he threatened that he should just wait. On the other hand, Yifeng and Bai were peacefully walking together. Bai blushed as she took a peek and glanced at Yifeng. She called Yifeng and asked him how he would thank her for helping him out of the situation earlier. Yifeng quickly turned to look at her when he heard her question, and he admitted that he doesn't have any power or money, and now that he has thought about it, what he has left is that handsome body of his. He concluded that he guessed that all he could offer her was his body. Bai was taken aback by what Yifeng remarked. She asked Yifeng if that was how he treats his savior, and as she exclaimed that she couldn't believe what her ears just heard, Yifeng suggested that she should think about it because she faked being his girlfriend, making everyone think that he's taken. Yifeng seriously asked Bai what would happen if he couldn't get married in the future and demanded that, with that, she needed to pay for the tarnishing of his name, the fee for making others think he was taken, and all the emotional damage. Bai was flustered when Yifeng pointed in her face and insisted that there would also be the fee for not being able to get married. She called Yifeng a bastard, and as she questioned why she should care if Yifeng can't get married, she also reminded Yifeng that her grandfather gave him a black card and asked him what was wrong with him. But with a deadpan look on his face, Yifeng responded that the card was given by Bai's grandfather, and as he inquired how that relates to her, he also asked her if she was a brazen person. Bai was pissed by what Yifeng replied. She ordered Yifeng to wait, and she began furiously looking for money in her pockets. Suddenly, Bai noticed that Yifeng was gone in front of her. She was pissed that she yelled and called him a bastard, which echoed on campus. Bai reminded that Yifeng had previously mentioned that her grandfather was about to die, so she initially stated that she could get close to him and interrogate him. She asserted that she bet that Yifeng already knew why she was doing that, which annoys her so much. Bai Yi insisted that she won't give up that easily, and she will definitely find out who Yifeng truly is and all his secrets. Meanwhile, on a different part of the university, Yifeng was about to enter the English class when someone asked another student if they heard that the trash was back, and they commented that no one would have believed that Yifeng would dare to return there once again when those from the Gong family would definitely not forgive him. The guys in the classroom were talking, and when a guy agreed and mentioned that the Gong family had already declared that they would break Yifeng's legs after what happened between him and Goddess Lin Lan, another guy chimed in and added that it was not just the Gong family because even the Yi family were furious, and a few of the higher-ups from the Yi family had declared that they wanted to kick Yifeng out of the Yi family and forever not recognize each other. When Yifeng entered the room, he smirked and stated that he couldn't even lay low, even if he wanted to, so he guessed that he would have to mess with that group of kids for a bit. Yifeng calmly entered the room without saying anything. He walked past Zhang Qiang, but none of them commented. Zhang Qiang was smirking, and he muttered that he would see how Yifeng would die later. Suddenly, a chubby guy barged into the room, and he looked alarmed. He called Yifeng as Feng Zai, and he almost stumbled as he ran towards him and urged that he should hurry up. The guy was out of breath as he exclaimed that it was not good, so Yifeng needed to go with him. Zhang Qiang grinned, while Yifeng just looked at the guy. The guy ran towards Yifeng, and when he asked him what he was still standing there for, he urged that if Yifeng didn't go, he was going to die. He was troubled, and he warned that those from the Gong family knew that Yifeng came back, and they even brought people over there so Yifeng should quickly run away. Yifeng was unfazed, and as he looked at the guy, he challenged that he would like to see what those ants were capable of. He tapped the guy on the shoulder to calm him down. Yifeng called the guy fatty, and he reassured that it was fine, so he should sit down. The guy was astonished, and he couldn't believe that Yifeng just ordered to sit. The guy did not believe what Yifeng mentioned about sitting down, and he exclaimed that Yifeng needs to run immediately because those from the Gong family, in order to gain the favor of Gong Yunfei, will really tear him to shreds. He was nervous as he declared that they were already on their way at the moment. Yifeng just calmly smiled at the guy. He tapped the guy on the shoulder again, but at that time, Yifeng pressed down on the guy and made him sit down, which surprised the guy. The guy was puzzled by what just happened, and he looked at Yifeng's hand. As he looked at Yifeng, who had a fierce look on his face, he wondered when Yifeng became so strong. Suddenly, a muscular man kicked the door open, and there were other men behind him. They came into the room one after another. One of the guys asked the people in the room which one of them was Yifeng. Zhang Qiang, who seemed to be waiting for that moment, laughed as he stood up. He addressed one of the guys as Brother Wu, and while he pointed at Yifeng behind him, he indicated that the Yifeng brat was over there. Zhang Qiang stated that Gong Wu came to find Yifeng there as soon as he found out that he was back, and based on his ruthlessness, he would at least cripple Yifeng, and once Yifeng was crippled and lost Bai Yi's protection, he could mess with him as much as he wanted. Yifeng's friend was enraged with what Zhang Qiang did, and he was about to stand up and reprimand him. But Yifeng stopped him and assured him that it was fine, so he should just sit. While Yifeng was holding him down, his friend protested that he was strong that he couldn't even stand up. Gong Wu was amused, and he began walking towards Yifeng. As he stood in front of Yifeng, Gong Wu asked him if he was that useless, illegitimate child. Yifeng smiled, and instead of answering his question, he inquired if they were the trash that Zhang Qiang called over. Gong Wu was pissed with what Yifeng expressed, and as he cracked his knuckles and released a dark aura, he called Yifeng a brat and asked him if he just implied that he was trash. Yifeng immediately denied it, and Gong Wu heard it wrong. He clarified that he was clearly referring to all of them and asked if Gong Wu was deaf. Zhang Qiang was astonished when he witnessed what Yifeng was doing. While he looked at Gong Wu, who was trembling in anger, Zhang Qiang wondered what that development was and if the trash Yifeng mentioned that with the backing of Bai Yi, Gong Wu wouldn't dare touch him, and he called Yifeng an idiot. One of the guys Gong Wu was with asked Yifeng if he wanted to get his ears torn off in order to know fear. Gong Wu scoffed and acknowledged that it was great, and props to Yifeng. He will give him two options. He outlined that the first option was to kneel down and apologize to him, crawl underneath him and call him Lord Gong. While Yifeng was smiling sinisterly, Gong Wu offered that the second option was that they would help him with that, but the consequence was an arm and a leg, and they would turn him completely handicapped, so he should choose. Yifeng used his demonic eyes, and he asked Gong Wu if that was the case. Gong Wu was suddenly frozen as Yifeng's sinister aura shrouded him, and he was surprised. He was seeing a dark, sinister figure in front of him, and he became nervous. With his demonic appearance, Yifeng questioned if he was sure about that. Gong Wu turned pale, and he froze in front of Yifeng. As he came back to his senses, he wondered if it was just a hallucination. Gong Wu toughened it up and confirmed that it was right and that he was sure of it, so Yifeng should kneel down or get crippled. Yifeng snickered. Everyone was baffled when Yifeng began walking to his side. Yifeng sat down on the desk where his friends were sitting, and he declared that it was good that they were really asking for it. He proclaimed that he would also give them an option, and he used his skill, soul-devouring demonic eyes. Gongwu and his group were in a daze when Yifeng's sinister aura shrouded them. Gongwu's eyes turned red. The eyes of the guys he was with also turned red. Yifeng commanded that they should kneel down. Suddenly, someone tried to hold their laughter in. It was Zhang Qiang, and as he was unaware of what was happening with Gongwu and his group, he laughed and asked if he heard it right and if the trash actually instructed to kneel down. Gongwu and his men said nothing, and their expressions were all dark. Suddenly, someone knelt, and they hit their knees on the floor with a loud thud. It was Gongwu and his men. Zhang Qiang was surprised that he couldn't help but curse in his mind. He quickly approached Gongwu, and as he asked why he was kneeling down to the trash, he urged him to stand up. Zhang Qiang kept calling Gongwu and shaking him, but Gongwu was out of it. Yifeng asked Gongwu if they weren't looking for Yifeng. He pointed at Zhang Qiang and stated that he was the Yifeng they were looking for, which surprised Zhang Qiang. Still in a daze, everyone stood up together when Gongwu acknowledged yes and that they were looking for Yifeng to beat the fish out of him. Gongwu glared at Zhang Qiang. Zhang Qiang asked Gongwu if he was okay and suggested that Yifeng must have used some illusionary trick. But he was puzzled when he saw what Gongwu was doing. A punch suddenly landed across Zhang Qiang's face. It was Gongwu who punched Zhang Qiang, and he proclaimed that he must beat up Yifeng. Zhang Qiang fell to the ground, and he was confused. As Gongwu and his men gathered around Zhang Qiang panicked and pleaded that they should look closely because he was not Yifeng. While Gongwu and his men began beating Zhang Qiang up, Yifeng was acting disappointed, and as he addressed Zhang Qiang as Yifeng and suggested that he should let young Master Wu teach him the ways of the world, he laughed maniacally. While Yifeng was grinning sinisterly, his friend was looking at him with a terrified look on his face. On the other hand, Zhang Qiang coughed up blood when someone kicked him in the stomach. Zhang Qiang fell towards one of the guys when someone punched him in the face. Another guy punched him on the other side of his face, and he was falling in the other direction. Someone elbowed him on the chin and knocked him backward. One of the bystanders asked if Zhang Qiang had ever offended Gongwu, and another guy commented that it was too brutal. Zhang Qiang was already on the ground, cowering in fear, and he repeatedly begged that they shouldn't beat him anymore. Gongwu and his men were looming over Zhang Qiang, and Zhang Qiang covered himself as he continued to tremble. Gongwu and their men suddenly turned and began walking away. They went out of the room as if nothing had happened. Meanwhile, Yifeng's friend asked him if he was really the Feng Zai that he knew and if he was even human or a ghost. Yifeng suddenly stood up, which startled his friend. He smiled sinisterly. Yifeng's smile suddenly turned bright, and he inquired what he was talking about and if he couldn't recognize him, but he mentioned that there was one thing that he got wrong. He smiled sinisterly again, and as his eyes glistened, he proclaimed that he was neither a human nor a ghost, as he was a demon. Zhang Qiang, who was injured, walked out of the classroom. Meanwhile, someone in heels was walking down the hallway. It was a pretty lady who seemed to be the teacher, and she confidently walked into the classroom. She was astonished when she saw Zhang Qiang limping his way out, and when she asked him what was going on with him, Zhang Qiang replied that he was fine and that he kind of fell down by himself. The lady was doubtful, but she just acknowledged and let Zhang Qiang walk away. She announced that it was time for class, and when she mentioned that, she caught Yifeng's attention. Yifeng was surprised when he noticed something, and he immediately used an aura in his eyes. He straightened up from his seat as he declared that there was an abnormal scent coming from the lady's body: violet blood, the destiny of 5 paths, the gaze of the stars. Yifeng revealed that she actually possessed an innate spiritual physique. He smiled sinisterly as he boasted that if he could get 1 drop of her blood, he could refine a demonic returning pill, which was equivalent to gaining an extra life. Suddenly, Yifeng noticed another thing. He noticed that there was something flying behind the lady. The lady began to walk around the classroom as she began her lesson. She walked past Yifeng, and the small insect was still flying near her butt. Someone suddenly slapped the insect and slapped her butt in the process. The lady screamed as she was extremely startled. It was Yifeng who slapped the lady's butt, and everyone stared at them. The lady was extremely embarrassed, and she furiously asked Yifeng if he was crazy. Yifeng smiled as he showed the palm of his hand and explained that there was a very dangerous demonic mosquito that was flying around her butt, so he killed it by slapping it. But the lady didn't seem to believe Yifeng, and she was extremely furious. A few moments later, Yifeng was standing by himself in the hallway as he got kicked out of class. It seemed like he was slapped, as there was a mark on his face, and as he looked at the demonic mosquito, he commented that although it wasn't much, it should be enough. He started applying his aura to the mosquito, and he noted that it was truly precious and that it was worth taking a slap for it. The mosquito was enclosed in Yifeng's aura. But while he was applying his aura to the mosquito, Yifeng recalled that demonic mosquitoes could only be found in the forbidden lands of the galaxy, so he wondered who on earth brought such a thing there. Evening came, and there were a few people passing by a club. Yifeng entered the club where his friend was waiting for him, and when he saw his friend, he called him fatty and asked why he called him over there. His friend quickly hugged him and informed him that his girlfriend actually made fun of Yifeng and broke up with him. Yifeng grabbed the face of his friend. He pushed his friend away, and the friend shared that he has never valued money or fame, but he values relationships. Yifeng was surprised when he heard that his friend mentioned that he values friendship. His friend was crying as he confessed that his girlfriend humiliated his brother, so he had to cut off his relationship with her. While his friend was busy rubbing his snot from his face, Yifeng smiled and acknowledged that he was quite loyal to brotherhood. Suddenly, Yifeng's friend pointed at the lady behind the counter and urged that he should look. He pointed out that it was Sister Rose, that pub's boss and one of the most famous bartenders in that city, and the most famous cocktail that she makes is the Big Sister cocktail, which costs 10k a glass. Yifeng's friend raised his card as he called Rose, and he requested that he would have 2 glasses of the Big Sister cocktail. Rose agreed and that he should give her a moment. Meanwhile, Yifeng was observing Rose intently. He suddenly called her Big Sis and remarked that she was poisoned. Rose and everyone else were unaware that there was a poisonous aura wrapped around her, and she was confused by what Yifeng stated. She looked offended as she asked Yifeng what he just mentioned, and Yifeng reiterated that she had been poisoned and trouble was right at her doorstep. Yifeng's friend looked worried, and he asked Yifeng what nonsense he was spewing. Rose was puzzled when she noticed that Yifeng was amused. Yifeng remarked that the person was already on his way to the door and asked Rose what she was planning to do. As if right on cue, the doors opened and a man entered the bar. The man kicked one of the tables, and as he called Rose, he asked her who else in that city of Jiang was able to save her. He demanded that Rose should just be with him, and he would cure that poison in her. Yifeng was astonished when he recognized the man as Poison Wolf, and he seemed to remember something about him. On the other hand, Rose looked anxious. Rose called everyone's attention, and as she announced that they should listen up, she asked who could help her beat that Poison Wolf down for her. She offered that whoever helps her will not be charged for any drinks in her bar in the future, and the man sitting on the back volunteered that he will. When the Poison Wolf heard what the man declared, he asked if he was the undefeated boxing king, Tiger from the black market. Poison Wolf warned Tiger and suggested that it was for his best if he didn't mess with him. But Tiger stood up from his seat. As Tiger released his powerful aura, he stood in front of Poison Wolf, and he commanded that he should stop with the nonsense, and he dared to cause a scene there, so he was courting death. But Poison Wolf just calmly stood there and replied that he understood. Tiger's aura lit up in his eyes, and he delivered a powerful punch to Poison Wolf's face. But Poison Wolf was unfazed, and he just smiled as Tiger's fist was about to hit his face. A mysterious dark aura flowed around Poison Wolf as he swiftly dodged Tiger's attack. Poison Wolf managed to quickly get behind Tiger, and as he was about to deliver his attack, he declared that Tiger is undefeated because he has never gone against him. His eyes glinted as he remarked that Tiger was a ducking blockhead. Poison Wolf landed a powerful punch on Tiger's back. Tiger screamed in pain and coughed up blood. In an instant, Tiger fell to the floor and everyone was quiet. Poison Wolf stepped on Tiger, and as he asked Rose if there was anyone there that was willing to help her, he threatened that they would share the same faith as Tiger. There was silence as Poison Wolf defeated Tiger and stepped on him. Rose and Yifeng's friend were all astonished and worried as they looked at the scene. But Yifeng didn't even bother looking behind him. Poison Wolf scoffed. He kicked Tiger's body. Tiger's body crashed into Yifeng's friend, and he expressed his surprise. Yifeng's friend crashed on the floor, but Yifeng still didn't look behind him. He remained silent. But when Poison Wolf stood behind him, Yifeng asked him if he didn't recognize him. Poison Wolf retorted that he didn't care who Yifeng was, so he should get lost. Yifeng glared at Poison Wolf and asked him if he dared to tell him to get lost. Poison Wolf grinned, and when he called Yifeng a stinking brat, he reached out his hand to grab him and remarked that he was quite the arrogant one. But Yifeng managed to grab his hand instead. Poison Wolf was surprised by what happened. He was surprised that he couldn't move his hand at all. Producing thorns in his mouth, Poison Wolf growled that the previous arrogant duck was crippled. He tried to spit those thorns on Yifeng, but Yifeng was gone. Poison Wolf was surprised and exclaimed that Yifeng had disappeared. Suddenly, his face was crumpled when something powerful hit it. It was Yifeng's fist that hit Poison Wolf's face, and his punch was powerful that he sent him flying. But Poison Wolf still managed to land on his feet. He was trembling in pain as he suffered serious injuries, and he asked what was going on and how Yifeng was strong. Yifeng was releasing his aura, and his appearance looked like that of a demon. Poison Wolf was still kneeling and trembling on the floor, while Yifeng was calmly walking towards him. Suddenly, Poison Wolf charged forward, and he proclaimed that he was going to take Yifeng's life. But Yifeng managed to dodge Poison Wolf's attack. Poison Wolf was astonished when he saw that something incredibly fast was coming towards his face. It was Yifeng's fist again, and Poison Wolf was lifted off the floor when his face got hit by it. Poison Wolf groaned in pain as he fell on his back. He crashed and skidded on the floor. Yifeng approached Poison Wolf and asked him if he still couldn't recognize him. But instead of answering Yifeng's question, Poison Wolf produced more thorns in his mouth and declared that Yifeng should go to hell. Yifeng easily dodged those thorns and remarked that Poison Wolf was quite the stubborn one. He suddenly dug his feet into the floor. Poison Wolf was astonished when he saw what Yifeng did. Yifeng slammed his fist on the floor to attack Poison Wolf and destroyed it in the process, but Poison Wolf was able to dodge it by rolling away. Poison Wolf quickly charged at Yifeng from the side. He threw more thorns at Yifeng. Yifeng was taken by surprise by Poison Wolf's attack. He was hit by those thorns and was about to fall on his back. Poison Wolf laughed hysterically, but Yifeng was able to grab those thorns using his teeth, and he grinned at Poison Wolf as he commented that the taste was not bad. Poison Wolf was surprised by what Yifeng did. Yifeng grabbed Poison Wolf's face and he was startled. Using his sinister aura, Yifeng slammed Poison Wolf against the wall so powerfully that the wall was destroyed. A few moments later, the dust that was caused by the crumbling of the rocks began to settle. It revealed the Poison Wolf that was sitting on the floor. Rose and Yifeng's friend were both astonished by what they saw. Yifeng asked Poison Wolf if he wanted some more, and Poison Wolf politely addressed Yifeng as sir and admitted that he gave up and didn't want to fight anymore. Poison Wolf muttered nothing and started to grab something in his mouth when Yifeng demanded that he had poisoned Rose, so he should hand out the antidote. Yifeng looked disgusted when Poison Wolf handed him a tooth and explained that it was his custom-made teeth, and the antidote was placed inside. Meanwhile, Poison Wolf was wondering how Yifeng knew that he was the one who poisoned Rose. Suddenly, Zhao and his men entered the bar. They stood by the entrance, and Zhao seemed to be looking for someone. When Yifeng recognized Zhao, he wondered what Zhao was doing there. Poison Wolf quickly stood up when he saw Zhao, and he called him Big Brother. Running towards Zhao, Poison Wolf asked him why he was there, and instead of answering his question, Zhao questioned Poison Wolf what happened to him, and Poison Wolf immediately explained that there was a kid there who didn't take him seriously. Poison Wolf mentioned that Yifeng boasted that Zhao was going to be in deep fish, and he asked Zhao if he was able to tolerate that because he couldn't. Zhao was surprised when he recognized Yifeng, and he politely addressed him. He bowed and greeted Yifeng, and Yifeng responded by asking him how his arm was. When Zhao also made Poison Wolf bow to Yifeng and acknowledged that it was all thanks to Yifeng for having mercy on him, which is why he was able to keep his arm intact. Poison Wolf was astonished, and he cursed in his mind as he couldn't believe it. Zhao revealed that he actually came there today to specifically look for Yifeng. Yifeng smiled, and he asked Zhao if it was because something had happened to the baldy old man. Zhao immediately confirmed that Yifeng was right and that their old master's condition was not good. The colorful lights on the bar were shining brightly. Zhao agreed to Yifeng and mentioned that the old man was getting worse recently, and as he was about to give more details about the old man's body, he was cut off. Yifeng cut Zhao off and stated that the old man had many black spots on his body. His physical functions were degenerating to the point where he couldn't stand up, and additionally, he twitched his muscles, screamed miserably at night, and asked him if he was right. He mentioned that those were symptoms after a demonic mosquito bite. Zhao immediately confirmed that Yifeng was absolutely right and asked if he could cure the old man of the Bai clan. Yifeng explained that the old man's death was predetermined, so previously, he didn't mean to save him, but since Bai has helped him, he will return the favor to her by helping the old man. He instructed Zhao to go back at the moment, as he will make preparations and should come back for him in 3 days. Zhao bowed to Yifeng and thanked him. He declared that from that point onward, Poison Wolf should follow Yifeng, and if Yifeng wants him to live, he will live, if he wants him to die, he will die, and that startled Poison Wolf. Poison Wolf trembled as he remarked that even Zhao had begged Yifeng to do things like that, so he wondered if Yifeng was such a big character, and he exclaimed that it was over because he had offended a big shot. He immediately kneeled in front of Yifeng and greeted the boss. But Yifeng pointed at his friend, who was just standing up, and instructed that Poison Wolf should not kneel down in front of him but his friend. Yifeng's friend was flinching in pain, and he had a bruise on his cheek. He was startled when he saw Poison Wolf running towards him, requesting that he forgive him, a lowly one, while calling him boss. Yifeng's friend asked Poison Wolf what he was doing and instructed that he shouldn't touch him, but Poison Wolf insisted that he was his boss from that point onward. And while Yifeng was watching them, Yifeng observed that Poison Wolf didn't recognize him even though he was supposed to be one of his people, so he wondered what was going on. Yifeng looked troubled as he remarked that he would look into that matter later, but the most important thing at the moment is the demonic mosquito. A few moments later, everyone had gotten out of the bar, and Poison Wolf chased after Yifeng's friend and shouted that he should wait for him. But Yifeng's friend called him a bastard and demanded that he should get the hell away from him while Yifeng was walking the other way, wondering where he would go at the moment. As Yifeng walked by a corner, he was surprised when he noticed someone. He saw Lin Lan, and he wondered if that was her. Lin Lan was wobbling as she walked, and as Yifeng watched her, he noted that he never thought she would come to such a place. Suddenly, Yifeng noticed a noise passing by, and that caught his attention. Meanwhile, Lin Lan was still walking down the street. In an instant, a white van that had its windows covered stopped right beside her. A man suddenly came out of the van, called her pretty sister, and invited her to get in and play with her brothers, which startled Lin Lan, and she asked who they were. Lin Lan refused and demanded that the man should let her go, but as she tried to run away, the van's door opened wide and revealed another man inside. One of the men quickly grabbed and carried Lin Lan, while the other covered her mouth as she tried to ask for help. When they successfully dragged Lin Lan inside the van, the men immediately urged that they should drive fast. The men quickly shut the door. Yifeng saw everything that happened, and as the van drove away, he observed that Lin Lan was kidnapped. He decided that he should follow them and see. A few moments later, the van was driving towards a house in the woods. The van stopped on the house's driveway. The men started getting out of the van. One of the men was carrying Lin Lan over his shoulders, and as he got out, he cursed and questioned how Yifeng could live in such a remote place even if he was a bastard of the Yi clan. And he remarked that after that night, the good-for-nothing could only live in jail for the rest of his life. He called his third brother and instructed that he should hurry and break the door, which the third brother did. The men went inside a bedroom. The man carrying Lin Lan was laughing sinisterly. He threw the unconscious Lin Lan onto the bed. Looking at her, the man commented that Lin Lan definitely deserves to be the beautiful president because, looking at her face frame, she is absolutely the most beautiful woman that he has ever seen. The man was wiping drool off his face while the other men were smirking beside him while he declared that they would do it one after another, so they should wait for him as he, the daddy, would be the first. Yifeng suddenly appeared by the door, and with a smirk on his face, he stated that there was no need to wait for one after another because they could all die together. The man was surprised, and he quickly turned to look in the direction where the voice was coming from. But when he saw that it was Yifeng, he just smiled, and as he called Yifeng a good-for-nothing, he scoffed and remarked that he didn't expect that he would come back so soon, so the game seemed to be getting even more interesting. The man laughed, and as he called Yifeng a brat, he announced that in a while, they would let him enjoy an action movie for free, and he was not only the audience but also the scapegoat. Yifeng was amused, and he commented that the man's plan was quite insidious. The man called his third brother and instructed that he should cripple Yifeng. The third brother called Yifeng a bastard, and as he warned that he should not interfere with their pleasure time, he threw a punch at Yifeng. But Yifeng was able to dodge it. The third brother was surprised, and he looked a bit anxious. Yifeng released his sinister aura, and he licked his lips as he pierced his aura through the third brother's body. The third brother screamed in pain, and he called for his big brother. Meanwhile, the other men were astonished when they saw what just happened, and one of them couldn't help but ask what it was. The third brother started to dry out and crack like a statue as Yifeng continued to absorb his life force. When the third brother was completely dried out, Yifeng released him, and as he crashed on the floor, one of the men called him in worry. Yifeng's eyes turned dark, and he demanded the remaining men to tell him who instructed them to do such a thing. The men quickly kneeled in front of Yifeng and pleaded that he should forgive him as he was doing such a thing at someone's request. But it was his fault, so he will never do that again, and he mentioned that it was he who. Yifeng acknowledged and declared that they could go to hell immediately. He released his sinister aura again. Yifeng's aura pierced the men just like it did to their third brother. He turned around and left the men that had dried and shattered like statues on the floor. Suddenly, Yifeng looked back when he noticed something. Yifeng noticed a jade pendant that was glowing on the floor. Yifeng crouched on the floor. He picked up the jade pendant and remarked that it was emitting some sort of kai. Yifeng crushed the pendant and inquired what exactly it was. When he opened his hand, he saw that the jade pendant was shattered into pieces, and a huge chunk remained intact. Yifeng was astonished when he recognized that it was a celestial demonic stone. He looked pleased, and he declared that with that, he could set up a barrier to any gathering of demons, and as a result, his recovery process could be improved even more rapidly. Yifeng left Lin Lan in the room and mentioned that it could be used in the forest behind his place. A few moments later, Yifeng arrived in the forest. Yifeng stood in front of a tree and noted that it was the one. He explained that the stone is able to convert all the energy that comes from heaven and earth by rejuvenating itself, so using an old tree filled with life could exhibit an even greater effect of its usage. Yifeng took out the celestial demonic stone. He tightened his grip on it, and it began to leak its aura. Yifeng punched the tree while still holding onto the stone. He imbued the stone into the tree, and he proclaimed that the setting up of the celestial demonic stone was done. The celestial demonic stone began glowing and releasing its aura into the tree, and Yifeng observed that with that power, all the plants and flowers would be able to grow at a rapid rate, and no one knows that maybe it might even produce a grass or tree spirit. The aura of the celestial demonic stone used the tree and began to spread into the ground. A plant on the ground suddenly began to glow. the plant started growing fast. Yifeng commented that it has been a long time since he has experienced such a refreshing feeling. While Yifeng was standing by the tree, Lin Lan suddenly arrived. When Yifeng saw Lin Lan, he cursed and exclaimed that he totally forgot about her, and that the spiritual energy there was too strong, so she might not be able to endure it. Meanwhile, Lin Lan noticed Yifeng too. She seemed to have recognized Yifeng's figure standing in the distance. Lin Lan began walking towards Yifeng. Yifeng coughed up blood when Lin Lan pounced at him and demanded why he had dumped her back then. Lin Lan was sitting on top of Yifeng, and she insisted that he should tell her why, but Yifeng asked her what she was talking about and if she was drunk. But to Yifeng's surprise, instead of answering his question, Lin Lan ripped his shirt open and declared that she didn't care, and that she wouldn't leave her at that time. Yifeng was flustered, and as he exclaimed that it was such indecency, he guessed that he had no choice but to save her, and it was not like he had never done anything bad in his life before, so there was nothing to lose that time. He grabbed Lin Lan's shoulders. Yifeng pulled himself up and came on top of Lin Lan. He muttered that it was troublesome and that he needed to disperse the energy within Lin Lan's body first. Yifeng placed his index finger on Lin Lan's forehead. Lin Lan's clothes got ripped apart as a strong aura came out of her. She let out a pleasurable moan. The aura finished dispersing, but Yifeng stated that he only managed to disperse a portion of it, and there was still a lot that remained inside. Yifeng was about to announce what he was going to do for the remaining aura when Lin Lan reached her hands out to him. Lin Lan hugged Yifeng, and he was surprised. Yifeng sighed that he guesses that he really has no other choice. The two of them spent the night under the blossoming tree as Yifeng dispersed the remaining aura on Lin Lan's body. The morning came. Lin Lan was lying on the grass when she woke up, and she groaned in pain as she mentioned that it hurt. She was completely naked when she sat up, and she was confused as she asked where that place was. Lin Lan suddenly screamed when she noticed Yifeng lying beside her. Lin Lan recognized Yifeng, and when she asked him why it was him again, Yifeng was annoyed as he replied that it was him. But at that time, it was him that saved her, and he requested her to stop screaming already. When Lin Lan heard what Yifeng mentioned about saving her, the memory of her being abducted the other night flashed through her mind. Lin Lan got embarrassed and looked away from Yifeng. She asked if she could borrow some clothes and muttered that she would leave once she got some clothes on, and they should just pretend nothing has happened and go their ways. Yifeng sat down, and as he expressed his frustration, he grumbled that it was clearly Lin Lan who took advantage of him, and Lin Lan was surprised that she could only ask him what he meant. As Yifeng started walking away, Lin Lan asked him where he was going, and he muttered that she was annoying and that he was obviously going to get her some clothes. Lin Lan was left there, speechless, as Yifeng continued to walk away. When she was alone in the forest, Lin Lan was in awe when she got to look around the place. Lin Lan closed her eyes, and she looked relaxed as she breathed in the fresh air. A few moments later, Lin Lan let out a muffled scream when a shirt was suddenly thrown on her face. Lin Lan quickly grabbed the shirt and asked Yifeng if he was trying to scare her, but Yifeng paid no mind to her question and instructed that she should put those clothes on and leave. She glared at Yifeng and insisted that he should turn around, to which he immediately complied. While the two of them were dressing up, Lin Lan asked Yifeng where that place was and why it felt like it was far away from the city, to which Yifeng responded and explained that it was his house and they were between the borders of the city and the villages. Lin Lan quickly finished dressing herself. She bashfully requested Yifeng if he could drive her back. Yifeng remarked that there was a crappy van outside, but there was a problem. But he proudly smiled and revealed that he doesn't have a driver's license. Lin Lan asked Yifeng to confirm if he didn't have a driver's license and if the car drove there by itself. But instead of answering Lin Lan's question, Yifeng mentioned that he happens to be going to the city as well, so he would request that she give him a ride as he has some business to take care of too, and Lin Lan just asked him who was giving a ride to whom. Lin Lan opened the door of the van, and she clicked her tongue as she remarked that they should just disregard it. She hopped into the driver's seat and suggested that they should go. Yifeng hopped into the passenger seat and thanked Lin Lan. Lin Lan glared at Yifeng, and she exclaimed that he was a bastard. She stepped on the gas pedal, and the van's wheels screeched as it moved forward. The van moved at such incredible speed that it was leaving a trail of dust behind. They continued to travel at that extreme speed even as they arrived on the highway. Looking at Yifeng, who was unfazed, Lin Lan commented that she was driving so fast, and he was not afraid at all. Suddenly, Yifeng looked startled, and he seemed to have noticed something. A black car was coming up behind them. Yifeng quickly grabbed the steering wheel, which made Lin Lan panic and ask him what he was doing. Tears were flowing out of Lin Lan's eyes as she yelled at Yifeng and declared that he shouldn't touch the steering wheel without a driver's license. The van continued to swerve on the road while the black car followed behind them. As the van suddenly stopped, the black car drove past them. Lin Lan was terrified, and as she exclaimed that they could have died, she asked Yifeng how he could do that. Meanwhile, the black car behind them blocked their way instead of continuing to drive forward. Yifeng grinned sinisterly as if he were anticipating that to happen. The car's door opened. Lin Lan's eyes were wide in surprise, and she asked who the hell that guy was. As Yifeng came out of the van, he instructed that it had nothing to do with Lin Lan, so she should stay there and not leave the car. Lin Lan asked Yifeng where he was going, and Yifeng responded that he was going to collect old debts and ask a few questions along the way. On the other hand, the man in the car has also stepped out. It was Yihu with his face full of bandages, and he exclaimed that he had found Yifeng. He grinned sinisterly. Yihu removed his bandage to reveal his burned scars, and he cursed that thanks to Yifeng, it was how he looked, so he was going to kill him that day in the most gruesome way possible, and he would make sure to make it as slow and painful as possible. Yifeng expressed his alarm humorously as he called Yihu Big Brother, and as he asked Yihu if he didn't think that he left the hospital rather too early. He suggested that he should have stayed until he was all healed. He asked Yihu if he should go back and get his brain checked. There was a moment of silence as Yifeng and Yihu faced each other in the middle of the road. Yihu was glaring at Yifeng while he was emitting a dark aura. In the blink of an eye, Yihu disappeared from where he was standing. Yihu lunged towards Yifeng at an incredible speed, only leaving a trail of his aura, but instead of hitting Yifeng, he went past him. Yifeng was astonished at the incredible speed and power Yihu displayed. Yihu hit the tree in the distance, and Yifeng wondered how he changed so much after coming out of the hospital. The tree trunk was completely destroyed, and steam was coming out of it. Yihu turned to Yifeng as he apologized and confessed that he hadn't gotten used to that power yet, so he missed. He quickly jumped off the ground to attack Yifeng again. He was moving at such incredible speed again, and he disappeared from sight, only leaving a trail of his aura. Yifeng scoffed as he released his aura and prepared for Yihu's attack. He managed to block Yihu's fist with his hand. Yifeng used his other arm and swung it with his aura to attack Yihu. Yihu managed to dodge it and disappear from Yifeng's sight, but Yifeng could see his shadow on the ground. Yifeng quickly looked behind him and inquired Yihu where he was going. He released a huge amount of his aura as he blocked Yihu's attack that was coming from above. Yihu screamed in pain as Yifeng's aura overpowered him. But he grinned, and as he grabbed a mask, he clicked his tongue and mentioned that Yifeng was really forcing him to use Killer Copper. Yihu wore the mask and cursed that Yifeng was dead. Yifeng was horrified when he recognized that it was the Devil Star's Shira soldier mask, and he wondered where Yihu got that from. Yihu repelled Yifeng's aura as his own aura intensified. His eyes were completely bloodshot after he wore the mask. Yihu released a tremendous amount of aura that filled the area and repelled Yifeng's aura completely. As Yifeng knelt on the ground, he warned that Yihu was playing with fire. Yihu has completely transformed, and Yifeng inquired him if he knew what that mask was. Yihu declared that all he knew was that he wanted to kill Yifeng at that moment and make him beg for life and death, and he didn't give a duck about anything else. Yifeng proclaimed that he was going to give Yihu one last chance to tell him where he got it from, and he would spare his life. But Yihu quickly disappeared from where he was standing without saying a word. Yifeng was alarmed when he saw that. He quickly looked above him, and he was surprised when he saw that Yihu was charging at him from such a high altitude. As Yihu attacked Yifeng with a powerful kick, Yifeng was able to block it, but it was powerful that it destroyed the ground where he was standing. Yifeng's feet dug and destroyed the concrete road due to the powerful impact of Yihu's attack. He gritted his teeth, and he looked like he was struggling to block Yihu's attack, as he remarked that with the power of the mask, Yihu was actually able to exert double the strength of the Shira soldiers. Lin Lan was by the black car, watching the fight in front of her. She was crouching behind the car, and she asked what was going on over there. Yihu infused his fist with a powerful aura, and he declared that it was over for Yifeng. Yifeng was astonished when he saw that, and he exclaimed that it was not good. Yihu attacked Yifeng, but Yifeng managed to dodge it by taking a step back. Yifeng continued to move backwards, and he muttered that he needed to keep his distance. But Yifeng was surprised when he saw that Yihu was able to catch up to him. Yihu asked Yifeng where he thought he was going and called him a piece of fish bastard. Yifeng gritted his teeth when Yihu bombarded him with punches, and he tried to block each one of them. Yihu delivered a swift punch that hit Yifeng on the stomach, and Yihu taunted that Yifeng was not worthy to bear the surname Yi. Yifeng was astonished, and he coughed up blood. Yihu's punch was strong that it sent Yifeng flying. Yihu released a tremendous amount of aura that burst from under the concrete road and destroyed it. He laughed maniacally as he exclaimed that it was incredible and the treasure was truly awesome because his body was filled with power. Yihu turned to walk away when Yifeng remarked that it seemed that he didn't even know what the thing he was currently wearing was. That surprised Yihu. Yihu glanced over his shoulder to check on Yifeng. Yifeng's hair was untied, and it flowed with his aura that had wrapped itself around him like clothes but was revealing a red stone imbued on his chest. His eyes turned black, and he explained that the soldiers of Shura are the lowest form of cannon fodder within the demonic star, and the mask of Shura is used to prevent them from running away, making them equip the mask before battle while increasing their combat power. Yifeng added that the mask could only be taken off once they were dead or when they won the battle. Yihu did not listen to Yifeng, and he just retorted that Yifeng didn't get crushed, which was great as he could continue torturing him. But Yihu was taken by surprise when he saw that Yifeng's attack was suddenly in front of him, and he couldn't help but ask how it happened. Yihu was sent flying as Yifeng attacked him in the face with his aura. He crashes face first on the road. Yifeng cursed and noted that he accidentally went too hard there, so he hoped he didn't break the precious mask of Yihu. Yihu was enraged, and he called Yifeng a piece of trash. He suddenly grabbed onto the concrete. Yihu raised the huge chunk of concrete where Yifeng was sitting, and he shouted that he should die. He slammed the huge concrete on the ground, which made the dust and debris fly all over the place. But suddenly, Yifeng's aura surged out of the concrete that was now erected on the ground. Yihu began to gather his aura on his fist when he saw that Yifeng's aura was coming at him. He threw his punch and vowed that he would kill Yifeng that time, for sure. On the other hand, Yifeng confidently charged towards Yihu, and he challenged that they would see who was the one who would die. Their punches collided with each other, and the impact created a powerful shockwave. But Yihu was surprised when he saw that Yifeng's aura crawled through his arms. His arm was being consumed by Yifeng's aura, and he asked Yifeng what he had done while calling him a bastard. Yihu screamed in pain. He vowed that he won't go down, and even if he were to die, he will drag Yifeng down with him, and he will definitely kill him, so Yifeng shouldn't even think about having a painless death. Yifeng asked Yihu if he still claimed that he had the power to beat him and stated that there was only one ending for him, which was death. Yihu screamed in pain as his body bulked up even more and his mask began to crumble. He grew so huge, and he lunged towards Yifeng. Yihu looked like he was in despair and was out of his mind as he charged forward. Yifeng declared that nothing could save Yihu at that moment because he let the Shura soldier's mask corrode him to such an extent. He created a slashing aura and remarked that Yihu should thank him for being merciless because he would make that quick for him. The slashing aura hit Yihu right in the center of his body. He groaned in pain as the mask on his face completely shattered. Yihu collapsed on the ground with a loud thud. Yifeng approached Yihu and gazed at his deformed body, which was lying on the ground. He reached out to Yihu's head as he asked where Yihu could have gotten the mask from. Yifeng used his skill, soul extracting art, to pull out Yihu's soul, and he noted that Yihu's soul hasn't dispersed yet, which saves him the effort. He began to devour Yihu's soul. Yihu's soul screamed, and it was trying to resist, but Yifeng was holding onto it so it could not escape. Yifeng closed his eyes as he continued to devour Yihu's soul. Suddenly, he saw a galaxy in space. After that, he saw a dark figure that was glaring ominously. Yifeng was astonished by what he saw, and he wondered if that was the young master of the Gong family. Yifeng dusted off his clothes. Lin Lan asked Yifeng if he was okay, and as she exclaimed that it was terrifying, she questioned if they were even humans. She inquired if Yihu was dead, and when Yifeng confirmed, she remarked that Yihu tried to kill them, so his death was well deserved. Yifeng commented that Lin Lan sure was extremely calm, and he remembered and asked Lin Lan if she knew any places where he could find a good amount of information because he wanted to do some research. Lin Lan thought about it and responded that it would probably be Yifeng's school library because it is Jiang City's largest library. A few moments later, they arrived at school, and as Lin Lan pointed out that they had arrived, she asked Yifeng if he was not going to get down. Lin Lan asked Yifeng what he was thinking about, what he wanted to do with the van, and if he did not want it anymore, and Yifeng replied that it was troublesome and that she could take the van because he didn't have a driver's license anyway. Lin Lan asked Yifeng just who he was exactly and where he got such power. Yifeng was confused by Lin Lan's question. Lin Lan dismissed it and urged Yifeng to just go. Yifeng reminded Lin Lan to call him the next time she faced any trouble and that he had already saved his number in her phone. Lin Lan was surprised when she heard what Yifeng told her. She checked her phone, and when she saw Yifeng's name on it, she wondered when he had done it. Lin Lan asked herself just who Yifeng was. On the other hand, Yifeng entered the school and walked with the other students. He remarked that the world gave him a weird feeling because the Asura's mask and the poison wolf were both from his planet, and even the demonic mosquito had suddenly appeared. Yifeng acknowledged that he needed to do some research to figure out exactly what was going on with that world. Meanwhile, Anzai was secretly following Yifeng, and she snickered while hiding behind a tree. A few moments later, Yifeng was in the library, and he observed that everything recorded there seemed normal, but he wondered why he had that strong sense of insecurity. Suddenly, Anzai covered Yifeng's eyes and teased that he should guess who she was. Yifeng was astonished when he saw Anzai, and Anzai giggled. Anzai asked Yifeng where he had been the past few days. While she joked that he didn't come to look for her, so she took the liberty to look for him instead, Yifeng recognized that she was Huanger. Yifeng clarified that she was Anzai, his childhood friend, and Huanger had long been gone. and Zai asked Yifeng if he was okay. Yifeng assured her that he was fine and that he had just suddenly remembered something from the past. So Zai invited Yifeng to join her birthday party because her best friend organized it for her. Yifeng agreed to join Zai, and Zai was glad and she celebrated. Evening came and they went into a huge, fancy building. Zai and Yifeng entered the place together and the lobby was huge and empty. Yifeng observed that the place looked very fancy, so it must have cost a hefty amount to book, and he wondered if Zai's best friend was that wealthy. He speculated if Zai's relationship with her best friend was that close and remarked that it was interesting, so they should just observe for the time being. Suddenly, a man came to greet Yifeng and Zai. The man asked Zai if she was Miss Zai and informed her that her friend had booked VIP room number 19 and was waiting for her there, so he requested that they follow him. Zai asked Yifeng if the place was expensive and suggested they change to another place, but Yifeng reassured her that it was fine, and since they had come all the way there, they might as well greet them. Yifeng mused that no one knew if maybe they were coming after him. A few moments later, Zai and Yifeng entered the VIP room, and Xiao Yu and Zai's friend quickly noticed them. Xiao Yu greeted Zai and acknowledged that she was finally there because they had been waiting for her. She asked Zai who was beside her, and she commented that he looked quite handsome, and Zai introduced him as Yifeng. Meanwhile, Yifeng paid them no attention as he noticed something. Zai called Xiao Yu, and as she commented that the place was expensive, she apologized for having them spend so much, but Xiao Yu dismissed her concerns, stating that it was nothing. Xiao Yu explained that young master Hu said he would be paying for everything, so Zai should thank him for it. Hu declared that the star of the show was there and the toast was for her, so he hoped that she would honor him. Zai hesitated and mentioned that she was not good with alcohol, but Xiao Yu encouraged her to drink a little. Suddenly, Yifeng grabbed the glass of wine from Hu's hand. Yifeng drank it without uttering a word, and Hu didn't react either. Yifeng suggested that Hu come with him so they could have a man-to-man talk. Hu was amused and asked if he was Yifeng. A few moments later, Yifeng and Hu stepped out of the room. Yifeng confronted Hu, revealing that there were sleeping pills in the drink, and demanded to know what Hu planned to do to Zai and who sent him there. Hu scoffed at Yifeng and hinted that he should know who he had offended, saying that since Yifeng had brought himself there and drank the alcohol, he shouldn't expect to walk out alive that night. Yifeng retorted that he would feel nothing regardless of what Hu had added to the drink. But Hu, on the other hand, wouldn't live past that day if he didn't tell him who ordered him to do such a thing. Hu mocked Yifeng, questioning what a brat like him could even do, and disclosed that Gong Yunfei had sent him to deliver a message, advising Yifeng to just wait. Hu looked at Yifeng condescendingly, but he was stunned when Yifeng summoned a spirit cat that swiftly bit his ear off. The spirit cat glared at Hu while holding the piece of ear it had taken. Yifeng cursed Gong Yunfei again. He ordered Hu to deliver a message to Gong Yunfei that he would find him once his personal matters were settled, so Gong Yunfei should wait. He asked Hu if he understood. When Hu didn't answer, Yifeng repeated the question, threatening to make him listen if he couldn't hear. Hu was terrified while his blood dripped down his face. Yifeng instructed Hu to be the one paying for all the expenses that night, and Hu quickly agreed, promising to pay. As they entered the room, Yifeng remarked that Hu should take him to Gong Yunfei because he felt bad for always being on the receiving end, so it was time for him to return the favor. Hu replied that he didn't know where Gong Yunfei was because he usually was the one who contacted him with the location of the meeting. Yifeng inquired where they usually met, and Hu answered that it was the abandoned steel factory. Yifeng suggested that they should go to the abandoned steel factory. A few moments later, the birthday party ended, and everyone went their separate ways. While Yifeng warned Zai to be careful while she was on the road, he explained that during that period when the Yi family stopped recognizing him as part of the family, and Zai and her family had been taking care of him, and he believed there shouldn't be a problem with that childhood friend of his, but she did resemble Huanger a lot, so he needed to check her background when he had time, although there was no rush at the moment. Yifeng asked Hu if he had any problem taking him to the abandoned steel factory, and Hu responded, of course not, and that his car was just over there as he was supposed to meet up with Gong Yunfei that day anyway. Yifeng criticized Hu, saying that it was his fault for touching those around him, so he should take that 10k meal as a lesson to never do it again, and he added that making people surrender with his power was his thing. Hu argued that a man should know when to be prideful and when not to, and that Yifeng was dead. Suddenly, Yifeng's phone rang. Yifeng was surprised when he saw that it was an unknown number, but he still answered it, and as soon as he picked up the phone, Poison Wolf informed him that it was not good because the fatty had gone missing. Yifeng asked Poison Wolf to confirm what he stated and if Fei Qian was missing. A few moments later, Hu and Yifeng went into the abandoned steel factory, and Hu stated that they had arrived. Yifeng questioned Hu if he wasn't coming too, and Hu replied that Yifeng must be kidding because he wouldn't dare. While dangling a phone where Gong Yunfei was calling, Yifeng teased Hu, asking if he perhaps lost something. As Yifeng picked up the call, Hu checked his pockets and demanded to know how the hell Yifeng did it and when he took his phone. Yifeng ignored Hu. He asked Gong Yunfei if he was right that he kidnapped Fei Qian and suggested that since he had prepared so many surprises, he should let him return the favor properly and proposed that they meet up and have a talk. Gong Yunfei declared that there was no need for that because Yifeng wouldn't live past that night. He immediately hung up. Yifeng was pissed when Gong Yunfei hung up on him. He cursed and crushed the phone, and Hu yelled and complained that it was his phone. Yifeng lamented that it was painstaking because there were only really 2 people within his social circle, and both of them got in trouble because of him. He asked Hu if everything that happened that day was all arranged by Gong Yunfei. Hu confirmed it but asked Yifeng what he could even do if he knew, and warned him that Gong Yunfei would not let him off and that he didn't know how terrifying the Gong family really was. Yifeng thanked Hu for the warning and assured him not to worry about the rest. Hu was puzzled when he heard what Yifeng stated, but he got terrified. Yifeng's spirit cat destroyed Hu's car and made it explode, and Yifeng bid goodbye. On the other hand, Fei Qian was tied up in a dark place, and his face was filled with bruises. Gong Wu was whipping Fei Qian, and he mocked that Fei Qian should take it because he was friends with the trash bastard. Fei Qian scoffed, and as he taunted Gong Wu if he wanted to kill Yifeng, he predicted that he was just signing his own death warrant. Gong Wu admitted that he knew Yifeng knew some sort of hypnosis and was utterly humiliated when Yifeng made him kneel down in front of everyone. But that time around, Yifeng would pay for it with his life. He revealed that his brother sent Six-Finger Snake and asked if Fei Qian believed there would be a chance for Yifeng to live. As Gong Wu boasted that an ordinary person like Fei Qian would never be able to understand what kind of existence Six-Finger Snake was, Six-Finger Snake greeted Fei Qian good evening. Fei Qian commented that he could sense something was weird about Six-Finger Snake. Suddenly, Yifeng spoke behind the doors and questioned if Six-Finger Snake was that incredible. Yifeng effortlessly broke down the doors. He expressed disappointment that Gong Yunfei wasn't there, but they should probably know where to find him. Gong Wu remarked that Gong Yunfei was right and that Yifeng did come, while Fei Qian advised Yifeng to be careful. Fei Qian wondered where the Six-Finger Snake guy went. Six-Finger Snake was above Yifeng and was about to attack him. Yifeng was startled when he noticed the huge snake coming toward him. He quickly jumped out of the way and dodged the snake's attack. Yifeng mocked if Gong Yunfei sent a worm there to kill him and if Gong Yunfei wasn't underestimating him too much. Six-Finger Snake retorted that they should see if Yifeng would still be that arrogant when he swallowed him whole. A huge snake emerged from the floor to attack Yifeng, and when Yifeng saw it, he inquired if Six-Finger Snake was a cultivator. But Six-Finger Snake asked Yifeng what a cultivator was. Yifeng summoned his spirit cat to attack the snake that sneaked up on him. He wondered if Six-Finger Snake didn't know what a cultivator was, but he said it was whatever as he could always interrogate him later, so he inquired if Six-Finger Snake perhaps only brought one snake. Six-Finger Snake insulted Yifeng, calling him a bastard, and observed that he also had some tricks up his sleeve. Yifeng threw his dark aura at Six-Finger Snake and ordered him to take that. Six-Finger Snake was kneeling on the floor while Yifeng's aura was coming at him, about to devour him. He accused Yifeng of being arrogant. Six-Finger Snake used his skill, deracinating King Cobras, and announced that for Yifeng to make him use that move, he could already go to hell. He remarked that it was getting boring, so Six-Finger Snake should show him something new, and he called his spirit cat and mentioned that its food was there. The spirit cat hissed at the snake and prepared to fight. Yifeng explained that since absorbing the vitality from the drop of blood that he got from Fang Ying, the spirit cat actually started to grow its own wisdom and formed into a spirit beast. And although it couldn't be used for the refinement of pills, there was no harm in having a helping hand either. Six-Finger Snake retorted that it was such petty tricks and that they should see whose spirit beast was stronger. He commanded that the deracinating King Cobras should go. One of the deracinating King Cobras attacked the spirit cat, and the spirit cat managed to dodge it by jumping out of the way. The spirit cat went and bit the deracinating King Cobra. Six-Finger Snake declared that he would be taking Yifeng's life. But Yifeng challenged Six-Finger Snake if he would do it with that lowest level of controlling technique of his and stated that unlike him, who was trash, he didn't need to stand in one place and get occupied with controlling his beast. Six-Finger Snake was surprised, and he inquired Yifeng if he didn't need to control his wild beast. Yifeng responded that Six-Finger Snake shouldn't put him in the same league with trash like him. Six-Finger Snake managed to dodge Yifeng's attack, and he asked how on earth Yifeng was able to do that. He cursed in his mind as he lamented that he couldn't control the deracinating King Cobras with his hands being interrupted. Yifeng charged at Six-Finger Snake again and stated that he wouldn't understand even if he told him because his level was too low. Six-Finger Snake dodged Yifeng's attack again, and he asked Yifeng what family or sect he came from because he had never heard of a person like him in the Deviant Alliance. Yifeng replied that he hailed from hell. Six-Finger Snake proclaimed that he would send Yifeng back there. He summoned a huge snake spirit behind him and ordered that Yifeng should prepare to die. Six-Finger Snake directed the snake to attack Yifeng. Yifeng just stood there and he seemed unfazed. He directed his aura at the snake and stated that it was right back at him. Yifeng's aura swiftly slashed through the snake, and it moved in a zigzag motion. The snake got cut into multiple pieces before it could successfully attack Yifeng. Meanwhile, Six-Finger Snake retracted his aura. He clicked his tongue, and he questioned Yifeng for daring to do such a thing. But Yifeng acted concerned to taunt Six-Finger Snake, and as he mocked that he could see that Six-Finger Snake's face had turned all pale, he asked him if he was scared and if he wanted to run away. Six-Finger Snake made a move. He cut himself on both arms and his torso, and he groaned in pain. Six-Finger Snake ordered that the deracinating King Cobras should come back. The deracinating King Cobras returned to Six-Finger Snake like they were ordered. The two of them suddenly started sucking the blood on Six-Finger Snake's arms. The deracinating King Cobras started to turn red, and Six-Finger Snake boasted that Yifeng should behold, as it was his ultimate trump card. Six-Finger Snake used his skill, Scarlet Python. The Scarlet Python screeched. Yifeng commanded that the Spirit Cat should return. As the Spirit Cat returned to Yifeng, the Scarlet Python charged towards him. Yifeng just stood there while the Scarlet Python was about to devour him. Suddenly, Yifeng's hair got untied, and his eyes turned red. At that moment, the Scarlet Python crashed into the floor and devoured Yifeng. Gongwu laughed and jeered that it served Yifeng right and that he should consider himself lucky for having such a quick death, while Fei Qian denied it by saying there was no way. Suddenly, Yifeng used his demonic arts, and a demonic baby started squirming on the Scarlet Python's belly. The demonic baby began to grow, and the Scarlet Python's belly began to protrude. It grew so huge that it burst out of the Scarlet Python's belly. The demonic baby started crying. It started eating the Scarlet Python, and Yifeng strutted out of the mess. Six-Finger Snake was terrified when Yifeng walked toward him that he couldn't form a coherent sentence. He stammered and asked Yifeng what he was. Suddenly, Yifeng noticed Gongwu, who was running away. Yifeng demanded Gongwu for daring to mess with him and warned that he shouldn't even think about running. A huge sinister aura chased after Gongwu, and Gongwu was terrified. Yifeng proclaimed that he was the demon from hell. He grabbed Six-Finger Snake's arm and warned that he was not allowed to die just yet. Yifeng ripped Six-Finger Snake's arm off, and Six-Finger Snake screamed in pain. He ordered that Six-Finger Snake should let him take him to his turf because he would welcome him to hell. Six-Finger Snake begged that Yifeng shouldn't kill him because he would do anything for him, and he pleaded with Yifeng that they talk about it. He claimed that Yifeng shouldn't kill him because he doesn't want to die yet. Yifeng responded that since Six-Finger Snake mentioned it, there was indeed something that he could do for him. Six-Finger Snake urged Yifeng to tell him because as long as he was able to do it, he would. Yifeng stated that he would like Six-Finger Snake to be a bomb. Six-Finger Snake was horrified when he heard what Yifeng uttered. He was confused as Yifeng pointed his index finger on his forehead. Yifeng's aura entered through Six-Finger Snake's forehead, and he screamed in pain. Six-Finger Snake groaned in pain while his body started to transform. He asked Yifeng what he did to him and his body. Six-Finger Snake started to shrink, and he exclaimed that it felt weird. Yifeng grabbed Six-Finger Snake, who turned into a chunk of meat, and he remarked that the results were not bad from the blood and flesh, so kudos to him. He hoped that Gong Yunfei would like his return gift. Meanwhile, Fei Qian called Yifeng and advised that he shouldn't let Gongwu get away because he would definitely get the people from the Gong family to get his revenge. Yifeng reassured that Fei Qian could finally relax and he would deal with his injuries later. On the other hand, Gongwu was frozen in place and he inquired what Yifeng was trying to do. Gongwu suggested that they could work it out if there was anything Yifeng wanted. Yifeng replied, of course, that he would like Gongwu to deliver his return gift to Gong Yunfei. Gongwu choked and questioned Yifeng on what he was feeding him. Yifeng revealed that it was a surprise as it was a special present that he had prepared for Gong Yunfei. Gongwu fell into hypnosis again and stated that he was a return gift for Gong Yunfei. He was completely out of it, and he repeated that he was a return gift for Gong Yunfei. Yifeng ordered that Gongwu could go already. Fei Qian wondered if Yifeng was going to let Gongwu go just like that. Yifeng did not answer, and he walked towards Fei Qian. He apologized to Fei Qian that he had to go through so much because of him, and Fei Qian acknowledged that he knew Yifeng would come and save him. Yifeng healed Fei Qian and suggested that he should get up and they should go back home. Fei Qian joked that Yifeng should help him get up because of his injuries, but he was surprised and realized that all his injuries were healed. Fei Qian asked Yifeng what he did to him, but Yifeng did not respond. He inquired why Yifeng let Gongwu go if he wasn't afraid that he would get more members of the Gong family for revenge, and where his spirit cat went. But Yifeng did not respond, so he demanded that Yifeng should talk to him. On the other hand, Gongwu returned to a huge building, and as he walked down the hallway, he repeated that he was a return gift for Gong Yunfei. One of the maids wondered what was going on with Gongwu, and the other warned her to mind her own business because Gongwu must have gotten drunk after messing around with women again. Gongwu proceeded to walk and repeated the same sentence. He was about to enter a room. When Gongwu entered the room, Gong Yunfei was waiting for him there. Gong Yunfei demanded to know how everything went. He asked if Yifeng died a horrible death and scoffed. But Gongwu was still in a daze, and he repeated that he was a return gift for Gong Yunfei. Gong Yunfei questioned what Gong Wu was mumbling about. He observed that Gong Wu was acting weird. Gong Yunfei inquired where Six-Finger Snake went and why he did not come back with him. But Gong Wu remained silent. He suddenly turned his head and announced that he was a return gift to Gong Yunfei. Gong Yunfei was surprised, and he quickly kicked Gong Wu away. He cursed and demanded to know what Gong Wu came back with. Gong Wu reiterated that it was a return gift. Gong Yunfei clicked his tongue. He saw that Gong Wu was about to explode, and he quickly ran away. Gong Yunfei ran towards the glass window and vowed that he wouldn't let Yifeng get away with that. He was anxious as he looked behind him. Gong Yunfei jumped out of the window. A huge explosion occurred. At Honghai Tower, Yifeng asked why Fang Ying would take him out to eat, and he remarked that it was quite suspicious, so he needed to keep an eye on it. Yifeng noted that he could also use that opportunity to find evidence on the Gong family. Suddenly, Fang Ying called Yifeng and informed him that it was that way. Yifeng inquired who the girl she was with was, and Fang Ying responded that it was her best friend Qin Zhu, and they planned the meal together because she wanted to show her gratitude while Qin Zhu had some questions to ask. A few moments later, the three of them sat at a table. Both Qin Zhu and Fang Ying stared at Yifeng with different expressions on their faces. Yifeng drew their attention and pointed out that they had been staring at him that whole time and asked if something was wrong. Fang Ying explained that ever since Qin Zhu heard that Yifeng helped her defeat the demonic mosquito, she kept telling her how scary that thing really was, and she still couldn't get over it, so she felt the need to take him out for food. Yifeng asked Qin Zhu who she was. Qin Zhu introduced herself as a doctor and also the manager of the biggest private institution for healthcare in Jiangxi, and the news about the demonic mosquito still hadn't been leaked to the public, so she questioned Yifeng about where he learned about it. Yifeng just replied, no comment. Qin Zhu remarked that if Yifeng couldn't explain it properly, she had a good reason to suspect him of the sudden appearance of those demonic mosquitoes. Yifeng just stared at Qin Zhu and remained silent. He declared that it was none of his business anymore, thanked them both for their generous luncheon, and mentioned that he had something he needed to take care of, so he would take his leave. Fang Ying called out to Yifeng, urging him not to leave yet. But Yifeng walked away. Fang Ying and Qin Zhu chased after Yifeng, and Fang Ying called out again, asking him to wait. When they got out of the Honghai Tower, Yifeng was blocked by a group of men. Bai Zhengguo emerged from behind one of the men. Yifeng wondered who he was. Bai Zhengguo introduced himself, and as he expressed that it was a pleasure meeting Yifeng, he pleaded with Yifeng to save his father's life. Qin Zhu recognized Bai Zhengguo and questioned what he was doing when Yifeng had no background. Bai Zhengguo requested that Qin Zhu not speak nonsense because Yifeng was a distinguished guest of the Bai family. Yifeng suggested they go because Bai Zhengguo's father couldn't wait any longer, and Bai Zhengguo showed him the way. Suddenly, Qin Zhu called out to Yifeng. Qin Zhu asked if she could observe his treatment process and stated that if he succeeded, she was willing to become his student. Yifeng told Qin Zhu that she could do whatever she wanted as long as Bai Zhengguo was fine with it. Meanwhile, a man hiding around the corner was on a call with Gong Yunfei, and as he reported that Yifeng left with the Bai family, he asked what he should do next. Gong Yunfei instructed the man to follow Yifeng and wait for him to come out from there. He questioned Yifeng's audacity to go against him. Last night, a business building in the city's CBD had a sudden explosion, which turned the whole building into ashes, and the police were still trying to find out the cause behind it. Gong Yunfei declared that Yifeng was already a dead man, but he was choosing the way he would die. On the other hand, Bai Zhengguo led Yifeng and the two ladies to their family residence. Qin Zhu expressed that it wasn't that she didn't believe Yifeng, but she pointed out that he claimed he could treat cases like that when an entire field of doctors could not, so it was quite questionable. Being a professional doctor and the private doctor of Master Bai, she wouldn't allow Yifeng to use him as an experiment. Yifeng advised Qin Zhu to look closely because if she missed it, there wouldn't be another chance as he would cure Master Bai. A few moments later, they arrived at the bedroom, and Bai Zhengguo thanked Yifeng for his efforts. Yifeng instructed that his spirit cat come out. The spirit cat emerged and sat on Yifeng's shoulder. Bai Zhengguo asked what it was. Yifeng reassured Bai Zhengguo not to be nervous because the spirit cat was the key to saving Master Bai. He requested that Bai Zhengguo help by bringing a bowl over. Bai Zhengguo ordered one of his men and instructed him to quickly fetch a bowl. A few moments later, Bai Zhengguo handed the bowl to Yifeng. The spirit cat sniffed the bowl and inspected it. Yifeng made the spirit cat's paw bleed, and while he caught the blood with the bowl, he quieted the spirit cat, saying it was just a bit. Meanwhile, Qin Zhu mentioned that she just wanted to touch the spirit cat while Fang Ying tried her best to stop her. Yifeng handed the bowl to Bai Zhengguo and instructed him to let Master Bai drink it as it would solve everything. Bai Zhengguo asked Yifeng if he was truly saying to drink the creature's blood. Yifeng confirmed it. Suddenly, Bai Yi chimed in and cautioned Yifeng to be more careful with the schemes of the Gong family next time. Everyone was surprised. Yifeng asked Bai Yi if the Gongs were very powerful and why she was afraid of them. Bai Yi replied that they weren't powerful. She added that the real power behind the Gong family was the Leng family in Jianan. Yifeng was intrigued upon hearing about the Leng family. Master Bai asked Yifeng if that was true. He inquired if he fell into the trap of the Gong family. Yifeng stated that there were many things he still tried to figure out in that world. However, the demonic mosquito was definitely not from that world. Qin Zu wondered what world Yifeng was talking about. Yifeng remarked that Master Bai shouldn't delve too deeply because they would get to the bottom of that one day, so he should be careful as the Gong family didn't seem crazy enough to strike him yet. A few moments later, Bai Yi thanked Yifeng for saving her grandfather. Yifeng replied that it was no problem, and he asked Bai Yi if those weren't their cars. Bai Yi asked if those were from the Gong family. Yifeng questioned Bai Yi if he was right that lending him a car shouldn't be a problem since he saved her grandfather. Master Bai instructed that Bai Yi should help him give Yifeng the Yin Lin, and Xiao Zhang would lead her to it. Bai Yi suggested that Yifeng should follow her. Multiple cars were still lined up in front of the Bai family residence. Suddenly, a white car came out of the gate. The men of the Gong family came out of their cars, and one of them exclaimed that Yifeng had come out. As they marched towards the white car, one of the Bai family's men asked them what they were trying to do. One of the men of the Gong family retorted that it was the Gong family's business and not theirs. Xiao Zhang suddenly arrived, and he declared that they were hitting their own people in front of the house of Bai and that they shouldn't test their limits. Suddenly, Gui Shu stepped forward and demanded that they should move. He politely addressed Xiao Zhang and explained that he was trying to find Yifeng, so if he moved out of the way, the Bai family could leave unharmed. Xiao Zhang asked Gui Shu why. Gui Shu did not answer Xiao Zhang, and he inquired if Yifeng wanted to come out himself or if he wanted him to drag him out like a dog. Yifeng asked Gui Shu if he was the only one Gong Yunfei sent to kill him. Gui Shu was speechless for a moment, and he remarked that Yifeng talked too much. He immediately swung his arms to attack Yifeng. On the other hand, Yifeng released his dark aura. Yifeng's dark aura blocked Gui Shu's attack. Gui Shu was surprised when Yifeng's dark aura took the offense and attacked him. He cursed and exclaimed that it was why Gong Yunfei told him to be careful of Yifeng, as his skills were enough to join the team, but unfortunately Yifeng had to die that day. But Yifeng retorted that Gui Shu should say that after he caught him. Yifeng immediately stepped on the gas and the car accelerated. He left Gui Shu and called out that he would see him. Gui Shu ordered his men and commanded that they should get Yifeng. Meanwhile, Yifeng drove on the road and the sun was about to set. Suddenly, Yifeng stopped in the middle of nowhere and got out of the car. He muttered that Gui Shu's abilities were extremely strange and he might lose if he tried to go against him. Yifeng walked towards the tree he planted and noted that he lost Gui Shu and his men back there, so there was still time to change the formation. He began meditating underneath the tree. A few moments later, Yifeng observed that the demonic breaking form should take care of Gui Shu and his men. Yifeng announced that he welcomed them and that they should come in for a surprise. The cars of the Gong family quickly surrounded the white car parked on the side of the road. Gui Shu and his men went into the forest and instructed that everyone should go find Yifeng. The men looked through the bushes, and Gui Shu urged that they should look thoroughly because Yifeng could be hiding anywhere. Gui Shu insisted that they shouldn't miss any place, and each of the men reported that there was nothing where they were. Suddenly, Gui Shu heard someone who screamed and uttered no. Gui Shu saw that one of his men was decapitated. He immediately commanded that they should gather together and not give Yifeng a chance to strike back. Gui Shu advised that they should be aware of their surroundings. On the other hand, Yifeng moved around at an extreme speed. He carried the head of the man he decapitated earlier. Yifeng asked Gui Shu if he was looking for that. He asked Gui Shu to forgive him and admitted that he forgot to return it. Yifeng welcomed Gui Shu and his men to his playground and remarked that it was also called Hell, which made Gui Shu click his tongue. Gui Shu's men screamed and asked for help as they were dragged away by Yifeng's dark aura. Gui Shu called Yifeng and declared that no matter how he played his tricks that night, he would definitely die. Yifeng asked Gui Shu if it was real. He stated that he would come out and that Gui Shu should try him. Gui Shu scoffed and mentioned that he forgot to answer Yifeng last time. He revealed that Gong Yunfei did not send him there alone. Yifeng stood there in the forest while Q Yifeng, the flying monster, was right behind him. He asked Q Yifeng if it still tried to sneak up on him even on his territory. Q Yifeng was surprised when it got hit at the temple. Yifeng attacked Q Yifeng and slammed it onto the ground. Yifeng noticed Gong Yunfei, and Gong Yunfei remarked that Yifeng should be obedient, and his death will be free of pain. Yifeng groaned in pain as he got hit by Gong Yunfei's attack. While Yifeng was sent flying, a man in the shadows called that Q Yifeng should get up. Q Yifeng quickly got up and screeched. He ferociously charged toward Yifeng. Yifeng saw Q Yifeng running behind him, and Q Yifeng prepared to attack while he was still in the air. He quickly gathered his dark aura on his fist. Yifeng used his dark aura to maneuver in the air and charged towards Q Yifeng. But to his surprise, Gong Yunfei hit his hand and made his aura disappear. Gong Yunfei stood at a distance, and he just finished throwing his attack. He comp it because he tastes so great, so his powers shouldn't be too bad. Meanwhile, Gong Yunfei was deep in thought. When Gong Yunfei prepared for another attack, Qu Yifeng protested that Yifeng was already dead, and he asked Gong Yunfei what else he wanted to do. Gong Yunfei mentioned that Qu Yifeng reminded him of something. He revealed that Yifeng was the one who killed the six-finger snake, and Gong Yunfei told them to look out for Yifeng so he would be more at ease when Yifeng is completely destroyed. Gu Yishu released his powerful attack at Yifeng. A huge orb of powerful aura appeared. Seeing the destruction in front of them, Qu Yifeng lamented that his new puppet was gone. But they were unaware that Yifeng's dark aura already lingered behind the dust that scattered due to the attack. Qu Yifeng remarked that he expected more from someone that was mentioned personally by Gong Yunfei, but it seemed like Yifeng was just an F-level amateur at best, so he should be happy that both of the E-level experts were the ones that killed him. They were unaware that Yifeng was already behind them, while Qu Yifeng conceded that it couldn't be helped. Qu Yifeng's arm was immediately cut off. Gu Yishu called Qu Yifeng as Qu Yifeng fell off his back. Yifeng observed that it was interesting as it seemed that they used letters to signify the level difference. Gu Yishu asked how that was possible and declared that Yifeng received a punch from him right on his chest, and even the experts cannot endure a punch from him. Yifeng admitted that it was true and that there was a hole in him, but that was all. He revealed that he figured out the secret to Gu Yishu's abilities, and it was about the vibrations. Yifeng disappeared in the shadows. Both Gu Yishu and Qu Yifeng were on guard. Yifeng's dark aura quickly filled the area. Gu Yishu exclaimed that Yifeng was still not done, even with a hole in his heart, and he asked who Yifeng was. Suddenly, Yifeng's dark aura moved forward at an incredible speed. It moved past Gu Yishu, and Gu Yishu groaned. Yifeng suddenly materialized behind Gu Yishu, and Gu Yishu got nervous. Yifeng used his demonic hunting scythe and announced that it has been a long time since he saw the big guy. Blood spurted out of Gu Yishu's arm. Yifeng assured that Gu Yishu shouldn't worry because he will end him immediately. Yifeng stood behind Gu Yishu while blood continued to spurt out of his arm. Gu Yishu groaned in pain, and as he kneeled to the ground, Qu Yifeng called him. Qu Yifeng asked what kind of monster Yifeng was. Yifeng remarked that their prediction of his level seemed to be quite inaccurate, and he inquired if they wanted to try it out and feel the difference. Qu Yifeng got worried when Yifeng's dark aura spread across the area. Gu Yishu noted that it covered the sky as well. Qu Yifeng questioned what they should do because he couldn't see anything. Yifeng announced that he will give them a chance, and between the two of them, he will let one live. Gu Yishu stated that Yifeng should quit joking because there was no way he would let one go back and report the situation, and that he just wanted them to kill each other so he could take care of them both easier. Qu Yifeng affirmed that it was right. Gu Yishu screamed as he began gathering his powerful aura. He fired his aura in all directions and declared that if Yifeng was scared to come out, he would force him to. Gu Yishu was startled when Yifeng suddenly placed his scythe onto his throat. Yifeng proclaimed that it was useless because he was the darkness itself, so there was nothing Gu Yishu could do. He cut off more of Qu Yifeng's arms. Gu Yishu fired his powerful aura at Yifeng and shouted that he should go die. Yifeng swung his scythe. The scythe created a powerful swirling aura that cut through Gu Yishu's attack. Gu Yishu's aura dispersed, and Yifeng went past him. Blood suddenly spurted out of Gu Yishu's body, and he was surprised. Yifeng observed that apparently, it looked like Gu Yishu chose for both of them to die, and he queried Gu Yishu if he was correct. While Gu Yishu coughed up blood, Qu Yifeng's real body emerged, and Yifeng commented that he finally appeared. Gu Yishu demanded of Qu Yifeng why he showed his face, and Qu Yifeng responded that he chose for one to live. Gu Yishu inquired of Qu Yifeng if he was crazy and exclaimed that there was no way Yifeng would let him go, but Qu Yifeng acknowledged that he knew that. Gu Yishu called Qu Yifeng's name as Qu Yifeng dug his fingers into his back. Qu Yifeng explained that Gu Yishu should stop talking because he was dying and he had to turn him into a ghoul before he died. Yifeng demanded of Qu Yifeng why he chose to save Gu Yishu if he knew that he wouldn't be letting him go. Qu Yifeng replied that dead bodies without a brain were much easier to control. He asserted that his ghouls could have greater potential than humans. Qu Yifeng laughed and taunted that Yifeng should just wait. He controlled Gu Yishu and commanded that Yifeng should die. Yifeng was unfazed as Gu Yishu grabbed his head. He scoffed and eliminated Gu Yishu effortlessly as he swung his scythe. Qu Yifeng was taken aback by what he saw, and Yifeng quickly moved behind him. He was about to confront Yifeng, but Yifeng swung his scythe and sneered that they were just the moth fires. Both Qu Yifeng and Gu Yishu collapsed on the ground. Yifeng mused that he finally found something peculiar, but he didn't think that they would be so weak. As he summoned his spirit cat, Yifeng mentioned that they don't look so great, but it should stop picking because at least they were useful in the meantime. The spirit cat began devouring Gu Yishu. Yifeng dispersed his dark aura. He slowly walked towards the tree. Yifeng dug his fingers into the tree. He clenched his fist after he took them out. In an instant, the luscious tree dried up and lost all its leaves. Yifeng explained that those two guys made him start the formation early, so he had to use all the energy around the area. He acknowledged that according to their level, he should be at least in grade A, so he still needed to be careful, and he will continue stacking up his powers. Suddenly, Yifeng noticed the spirit cat approaching him. It turned into a lion, and Yifeng admitted that it was not bad. Yifeng cursed and exclaimed that the spirit blood beast could really grow fast. He wondered if it meant that they could all become his to devour if Gong Yunfei has such a strong alliance around him, and he added that he still needed to get on the good side of the Bais as they will become an important aid for him to take down Gong Yunfei. Yifeng jumped off the ground. He flew up into the sky where the bright full moon was shining. The spirit blood beast disappeared into Yifeng's dark aura. Yifeng threatened that Gong Yunfei should just wait for it because he was coming for his ass soon. Qinzu walked in the forest where Yifeng's fight just happened. She carefully threaded the dark forest. Qinzu remarked that two grade E experts really just vanished like that. She let out a sigh as she removed her equipment. Qinzu was a member of the secret Wang of the Leaf group and noted that she needed to report to the headquarters because Yifeng might be more dangerous than they expected. She mentioned that she doesn't know what the clan was up to, but they should be able to help them test the waters first, as they needed to find out who in the world Yifeng really is. Suddenly, Qinzu was horrified when she came across the withered part of the forest. She asked herself how that was possible. Meanwhile, Gong Yunfei was at the sub-department building of the clan. Gong Yunfei was with the liaison officer Chu Lai, and as he complained that they were useless, he asked how those two grade E experts got destroyed by a mere human. He stated that one grade E is more than 10 times the highest ranked fighter, but even with the two of them combined, they were still defeated. Gong Yunfei stood up and walked away from the table he just destroyed, while Chu Lai just calmly stood there. Chu Lai requested that Gong Yunfei always remember his place, and he pointed out that he was related by blood to the family, but in the clans, he had no authority to command. Gong Yunfei glared at Chu Lai. He clicked his tongue. Gong Yunfei retorted that it was his first time in many years seeing someone pick on the authoritativeness of the clan, so Chu Lai was a clever one. But he needs to try harder next time or else he will get the worst of it again. Chu Lai responded that Gong Yunfei shouldn't worry because he came there that day to help him solve that problem. However, Chu Lai explained that the clan was still in battle and finding two grade E experts was already very demanding. Gong Yunfei demanded that he doesn't care, so Chu Lai should arrange another expert from the clan available at the moment for him. He declared that he needs to watch the bastard Yifeng Bo and beg for his life in front of him. But Chu Lai replied that they can't use another grade E expert at the moment. He suggested that he thought it was time for the grade D expert to have a shot. On the other hand, Yifeng came back to the Bai family residence. Yifeng muttered that it would be troublesome to bother others, so he had to stick with the Bai family in the meantime. He saw Bai and he wondered if she was there to welcome him. Yifeng called Bai, and as he informed that his house was gone, he asked her if he could have a place to stay for a bit, which annoyed Bai. Bai asked Yifeng what he said and demanded that he should stay right there. A few moments later, she ran towards Yifeng, and she shouted that he was a bastard. Yifeng advised that Bai should calm down, and he asked her if she was treating him like that after he saved her grandpa and the family. Bai conceded fine and asked Yifeng what he wanted. Yifeng revealed that his house was gone, so Bai should find him a place to live. Bai commented that she thought Yifeng was a disciple of the Yi family. Yifeng smiled mischievously. He cursed and grumbled that Bai found out. He clarified that his name was Yi, the character for night and not the one for whatever the Yi family has. Bai sighed that since Yifeng was pitiful, he should come with her. But suddenly, Yifeng observed that she should look at herself first. Bai was immediately flustered when she realized what she was wearing. She chased after Yifeng and yelled that he was a retard, so he should go die. A few moments later, evening came, and a room in the Bai family's residence was still lit up. Yifeng stayed in that room, and he talked with Qinzu. Qinzu asked Yifeng if he was really a part of the Yi family. Yifeng replied that he thinks Qinzu was asking a bit too much. He asked what time it was and if he could go to sleep. Qinzu explained that she just wanted to make sure that Yifeng wasn't their enemy, as they, the organization, do not want to be rivals with him. She added that she has to make sure if Yifeng is a threat or not. Yifeng agreed that it was fine, but Qinzu should answer a few questions for him too. Qinzu responded sure and asked Yifeng what he wanted to ask. Yifeng asked what exactly that place was and why the demonic mosquitoes and people from the previous universes exist there. Qinzu admitted that their world is indeed a bit unstable as there are multiple cracks in time. She realized and asked Yifeng if he didn't belong in their world. Yifeng smiled. He proclaimed that he was from Hell, the king from Hell. Gong Yunfei came back to his building, where the explosion happened. He kicked a door and entered one of the rooms. Gong Yunfei cursed and remarked that the safe actually didn't break thanks to the material. He He asserted that it doesn't matter if the expert tried to find Yifeng or not, as he still planned to watch him kneel in front of him and die pitifully. Gong Yunfei took out a heart in a container from the safe. He was startled when Zunner asked him if the eldest Gong kept it and commented that it was unexpected. Zunner smiled at Gong Yunfei. She observed that it was quite bold of him to come there alone without anyone. Gong Yunfei declared that Yifeng must die. Zunner noted that it looked like Gong Yunfei knew nothing about powers and that he was really hard to convince, so she took the demonic mosquito with her and he should take care. But Gong Yunfei insisted that Zunner did not leave because he had to make her experience what it feels like to be begging for death. Zunner was amused, and she asked Gong Yunfei if he thought he could. She jumped off the ground. Zunner dodged Gong Yunfei's attack while he asked her how he would know without trying. Zunner remarked that the Leng family is quite powerful, but unfortunately, that would not be the case since Gong Yunfei is a piece of trash. Gong Yunfei vowed that once he catches Zunner, he will rip off that mouth of hers. Zunner taunted Gong Yunfei and asked him if it wasn't nice to live peacefully. She asked Gong Yunfei why he caused trouble. Gong Yunfei attacked again and proclaimed that if he could get rid of Zunner, the Deviant Alliance would definitely give him a raise. Zunner gracefully dodged his attack and mused that it was a pity that Gong Yunfei didn't have the skills. She added that it was the reason why Gong Yunfei was named Gong and not Leng. Gong Yunfei snapped that Zunner should shut up. Zunner was a bit taken aback when she saw Gong Yunfei's attack come at her. She still managed to dodge it and commented that she almost forgot that Gong Yunfei's rank was almost a D, but she asked him if he wasn't making light of her. Zunner announced that the game was over and she really wanted to kill Gong Yunfei, but she couldn't do that in the meantime. She stated that Gong Yunfei should be happy that his crappy life was saved that day. Gong Yunfei retorted that if Zunner wanted to fight, he would stay to the end because his not being able to kill her doesn't mean that no one could kill her. Suddenly, the ceiling began to crack and Zunner noticed it. Zunner quickly moved and dodged the attacks that rained down from the ceiling. She asked Gong Yunfei if it was his special ability, and as she commented that it was interesting, she asked him who was the one controlling it at the moment. Gong Yunfei asked Zunner if she really uttered that he was dumb enough to come out alone. Zunner replied that she doesn't give a suck since she got the thing she needed, so she left. Gong Yunfei was surprised with what Zunner did. He tried to chase after Zunner, who jumped off the building. But a powerful aura appeared, and Gong Yunfei warned that Zunner should just wait because one day he will kill them all and leave no pieces of their bodies behind. On the other hand, Yifeng was still at the Bai family residence. Yifeng talked to his scythe, and he mentioned that he was finally able to summon his old buddy again. He explained that by absorbing life energy, he was in his best state at the moment, but he still needed to find a way to search for more information because that world is too suspicious. Suddenly, Zunner asked if Yifeng was home. Yifeng quickly dispersed his scythe. Zunner asked if he was Yifeng, while Yifeng asked Zunner who she was and why she was there. Zunner laughed as she landed on the edge of the balcony. She replied that there were two things and that the first one was that she obviously wanted to see Yifeng. Yifeng asked Zunner about the second thing. Zunner clicked her tongue and asked Yifeng why he was in a rush. She gave Yifeng the heart and informed that she was the only one that knew how to take care of it. Yifeng acknowledged that he was very familiar with the thing. He quickly grabbed his phone. Yifeng called Poison Wolf and commanded that there was a mission and that he shouldn't come back if he couldn't complete it. Yifeng was with Zunner on the balcony and he inspected the heart. He inquired Zunner where she found it. Zunner stated that she stole it from the eldest of the Gong family, and while addressing Yifeng as her king, she queried him if he was happy with the present. Yifeng looked at Zunner intently. He questioned Zunner who she was. Zunner remarked that she can't say anything yet as it was not the right time. She noted that Yifeng should take care as she will take her leave. But Yifeng declared that he didn't say that Zunner could leave yet. Zunner was startled when she noticed that Yifeng swung his scythe at her. But she managed to dodge it, and as she mentioned that Yifeng shouldn't be in such a hurry because at least he could tell that they weren't enemies at the moment, she interrogated him if that was not enough. Yifeng commented that Zunner was right, but curiosity still took over and he probed her who she was. Zunner grinned sinisterly. She muttered that Yifeng should chill because she looked forward to the next time they meet, and she disappeared. Yifeng clicked his tongue and expressed that he hates people that act like that because they think that they were mysterious. He uttered that the array could keep the heart alive and give the demonic mosquito blood and demanded himself why the heart was familiar. Suddenly, Yifeng's phone began to ring. He was surprised when he saw that Lin Lan was calling. A few moments later, Yifeng drove on a bridge with Poison Wolf. He talked about Gong Yunfei. Poison Wolf pressed Yifeng what the heart was. Yifeng clicked his tongue and glared at Poison Wolf. Pronounced that there was an explosion. Poison Wolf relayed that before he lost consciousness, he saw a huge energy ball fall from the sky and there was an explosion and he blacked out. A few moments later, Yifeng arrived at his destination and he grilled Gong Yunfei when he would finally stop messing around. Gong Yunfei proclaimed that their problem started with Lin Lan, so they should end it with her too. Yifeng opined that Gong Yunfei was really a nitwit and hammered him if he even knew what Yihu did. Gong Yunfei advised that Yifeng should stop worrying about the Yi family because he touched her fiancé, so he has to die. Yifeng affirmed that it was okay if Gong Yunfei didn't want to care about the Yi family, but he would ask him where he got the mask from the demonic planet. Instead of answering Yifeng's question, Gong Yunfei stomped his foot on the floor as he stood up. He took out his brass knuckles. Gong Yunfei vowed that he would tell Yifeng the answer once he was in hell. Yifeng articulated that hell is his home. Gong Yunfei shouted that Yifeng should die, but Yifeng effortlessly blocked his attack. Yifeng pried Gong Yunfei if he wanted his little buddy to help him and if it was kind of hard to fight him. But Gong Yunfei warned that Yifeng shouldn't be so arrogant. Gong Yunfei's speed suddenly increased. He quickly moved behind Yifeng, and Yifeng was surprised. Gong Yunfei attacked Yifeng and bellowed that he should die. He applied his aura to his brass knuckles. Yifeng was taken aback when he saw Gong Yunfei's attack. Yifeng calmed down, and he leaned back to dodge Gong Yunfei's attack. He stated that Gong Yunfei has quite a lot of interesting tricks. Yifeng released his powerful, dark aura and prepared to attack Gong Yunfei. But before he fought, he looked behind him to check on Lin Lan. Yifeng saw that Lin Lan trembled on the couch while Chu Lai watched her from behind. Suddenly, Gong Yunfei remarked that Yifeng should be honored that he sent him to hell with his own hands. Yifeng quickly took a step back to dodge Gong Yunfei's attack while he threw his attack at the same time. He mentioned that since Gong Yunfei loves that place so much, it must be true that he still constantly thinks of the people who died there. Yifeng declared that Gong Yunfei should go have fun with his maids. Gong Yunfei was startled when he saw that Yifeng's array summoned the spirit of his maids. They all was sinister and glared at Gong Yunfei. Gong Yunfei was enraged by what Yifeng did. He was cornered and was not able to react as the maids started charging towards him. On the other hand, Yifeng considered that Chu Lai made him feel uncanny, so he needed to get Lin Lan out of there first. Chu Lai glared at Yifeng when he saw that he came. Lin Lan uttered that Yifeng should be careful. Yifeng just passed by Chu Lai and queried if he tried to stop him. He was startled when Chu Lai suddenly grabbed his chest. Chu Lai excused himself and announced that Lin Lan had to stay there. Yifeng inquired Chu Lai why he beat someone up while wearing such formal clothing and what the Deviant Alliance did. Chu Lai observed that Yifeng's defensive abilities are also slightly below their standards. Meanwhile, Gong Yunfei struggled as he tried to fend off the maids Yifeng summoned. He called Chu Lai and articulated that he should torture Yifeng to death using the most brutal method that he had. Chu Lai was silent for a moment, and he suggested that they wait for the D-ranked expert first. But Gong Yunfei maintained that there was no need to wait because just the two of them are enough. He insisted that he would get rid of Yifeng first. Suddenly, the huge hands of the infant demon extended to grab Gong Yunfei. It managed to catch Gong Yunfei's leg. Gong Yunfei froze for a moment when he saw what the infant demon looked like. He cursed and blurted that the infant demon should get away. The infant demon opened its mouth and ate Gong Yunfei's little orbs of aura. It screamed in pain as huge spikes exploded from its insides and poked out of its body. Gong Yunfei wondered what in the world the infant demon was. He demanded that Yifeng should show him what else he has up his sleeves. Meanwhile, the infant demon slowly began to melt and disappear. Gong Yunfei questioned where Yifeng was. He and Chu Lai quickly looked behind them and saw that Lin Lan was gone. On the other hand, Yifeng escaped the building with Lin Lan. Yifeng noted that Lin Lan was troublesome because the first time she called him was actually for something like that, and Lin Lan voiced that she doesn't want to get involved with him in any way from that point onward. Yifeng interrogated Lin Lan, who was the one that got captured. Lin Lan scoffed, and she thanked Yifeng for saving her. Yifeng expressed that it was safe there, but he still needed to return and settle accounts with those losers. Lin Lan tried to protest and reason with Yifeng, but she was not able to finish her sentence. Yifeng has already jumped off the edge of the building rooftop. Lin Lan reflected that she was rescued by Yifeng again. On the other hand, Poison Wolf went to the dilapidated building. He called for Gong Yunfei and Chu Lai's attention and proclaimed that they should look at what he got. Gong Yunfei cursed, and he pressed where Poison Wolf got that from. Chu Lai commented that it was what he wanted to ask Gong Yunfei, and Gong Yunfei added that he will personally report that to the elder later, but first things first, and they should take it back from Poison Wolf. Poison Wolf posed how low-ranked people like them would know how to use that. He took the heart out of the container. Poison Wolf pronounced that it was the real deal compared to the demonic mosquito. He began munching on the heart. Poison Wolf muttered that he hasn't had anything that delicious in such a long time. He promised that he will be sure to play with them before Yifeng comes back. Poison Wolf pulled his head back and began sucking in air. He yelled and released his powerful aura. Poison Wolf remarked that it was fun and that he didn't think that there was such a great thing there, so Gong Yunfei and Chu Lai should come to him. Gong Yunfei inquired Poison Wolf if he believed that he was afraid of him. But Poison Wolf moved quickly, and in an instant, he was in front of Gong Yunfei. Chu Lai was alarmed when he noticed that Poison Wolf passed by him, and he quickly looked behind. He quickly lunged at Poison Wolf while Poison Wolf attacked Gong Yunfei. Chu Lai managed to hit Poison Wolf and get him out of Gong Yunfei's way. But he was horrified when he noticed that Poison Wolf managed to attack. Chu Lai declared that Gong Yunfei should watch out. Poison Wolf stated that it was a little surprise for Gong Yunfei. Chu Lai voiced that Poison Wolf should go to hell. He quickly ran towards Gong Yunfei and protected him from Poison Wolf's attack with his arm. Gong Yunfei and Chu Lai both knelt on the floor. Chu Lai affirmed that his arm wasn't salvageable. Gong Yunfei noted that the poison is hard to deal with. He added that Chu Lai should endure it for a second. Chu Lai screamed in pain as Gong Yunfei cut his arm off. He vowed that he would kill Poison Wolf for sure, and Gong Yunfei announced that he could go take care of Poison Wolf while he would go for Yifeng. Gong Yunfei urged that Chu Lai should take his tiny orb of aura. Chu Lai quickly infused the orb of aura into his arm. Suddenly, a black liquid started squirming out of Chu Lai's arm. Chu Lai commented that the new arm was good. Meanwhile, Poison Wolf wondered if that was Gong Yunfei's powers and if it could be metal kinesis. Suddenly, Chu Lai jumped off the ground. He swung his metal arm into the air. Chu Lai lunged at Poison Wolf and demanded that he should go die. A huge explosion occurred in the building. After that, Yifeng arrived at the building. He floated in the air and faced Gong Yunfei. Yifeng queried Gong Yunfei if it was all worth it just for his reputation. Gong Yunfei retorted that Yifeng was an idiot because he could have the surname Yi but chose to abandon it while he was not allowed to be named Lang when he wanted. He summoned multiple tiny orbs of his aura. Gong Yunfei proclaimed that the rule in the world is that family blood is the only strong foundation to survival. He asserted that Yifeng was the person he hated the most in that whole city. Yifeng just stood there as Gong Yunfei fired his spiky auras at him. He was amused as he realized that Gong Yunfei has been targeting him ever since the beginning, and the only reason was because of his last name. And he maintained that relying on one's family name as their source of power isn't going to make one stronger, they're just a piece of trash who wanted fame. Gong Yunfei was alert, and he anticipated Yifeng's moves. Meanwhile, Yifeng recognized that on the demonic planet, he depended on himself to gain the title of king, so there was no way that the small Yi family could tempt him. Gong Yunfei suddenly revealed that he has a generous gift he prepared. He expressed that Yifeng should catch it. But Yifeng was unfazed by Gong Yunfei's attack, and he continued to plunge headfirst towards Gong Yunfei. Gong Yunfei lost his balance and fell on the floor. Yifeng conveyed that without the Lang family holding Gong Yunfei's back, he was nothing. Gong Yunfei warned that Yifeng shouldn't dare to kill him. Yifeng was amused, and he wondered Gong Yunfei why he wouldn't. Gong Yunfei contended that the Deviants Alliance will not let Yifeng go. He insisted that the Lang family wouldn't either. Yifeng questioned Gong Yunfei if he figured he hadn't been threatened enough as a demonic king. He pronounced that he was Yifeng. Yifeng professed that he was the king of the demonic planet last time, and currently, he will continue being the strongest in that world. He avowed that hell is his home. Chu Lai was enraged when he saw what happened to Gong Yunfei. He observed that Yifeng was in big trouble. Gong Yunfei's decapitated head lay on the floor. Poison Wolf laughed and inquired whether Chu Lai was not going to shed a few tears since his master was dead. Yifeng declared that the matter is done and over with, but if their Deviants Alliance wanted to continue that and be his enemy, they are very much welcome. Chu Lai remarked that the mistress would go crazy. He announced that the whole city of Jiang will begin a war field, and even if Yifeng was from the Yi family, she will never let him go. Suddenly, a purple aura appeared behind Yifeng. Yifeng glared at the purple aura when he saw that. On the other hand, Chu Lai was speechless as he recognized the aura. Zhao, the person who owned the aura, landed in front of Gong Yunfei's body. He called Chu Lai and stated that it was time to go. Poison Wolf uttered that Chu Lai should stop, but Yifeng commented that Poison Wolf should let them go. Zhao was puzzled when he heard what Yifeng mentioned. Poison Wolf queried Yifeng if it would not be bad for him if the word of what happened that day spread, and Yifeng responded that his goal was to return back onto the demonic planet, back to the position to which he belongs, so there was no way that Mere Planet was going to trap him. Yifeng noted that if a small city like that is going to block his way, his face of being the king of the demonic planet would be gone. Poison Wolf affirmed that Yifeng will succeed, and he fully believes in his master, and Yifeng asserted that they should go because Poison Wolf needs to protect those people he knows, so he should be at least ranked according to the method they use to determine power levels. Yifeng questioned Poison Wolf if he understood well what the consequences would be if something like that happened again, and Poison Wolf replied that he, a subordinate, understands well and good. The next day, Chu Lai and Zhao went into a luxurious villa. There were a lot of cars parked outside the building. Inside the building, there was a party that was filled with people wearing fancy clothes. Chu Lai consulted Zhao about how he believed the Len family would take care of that matter. Zhao observed that he doesn't think the Len family will start the quarrel with the Yi family yet, and the Bai family is also leaning towards Yifeng, so they probably will not do anything out of the blue in a while. He added that it was also because there are a lot of people there in that party who are not from the alliance, but he trailed off. Lan Han Shuang entered the building, and as one of the guests wondered why she was there, another recounted that they heard Lan Han Shuang's son got killed by some guy from the Yi family. One of the guests was alarmed and pressed what Lan Han Shuang held. Lan Han Shuang welcomed everyone attending that party that day and proclaimed that she was honored to receive an announcement from the elders of the Deviants Alliance. Chu Lai interrogated Zhao about what Lan Han Shuang was trying to do. Zhao suspected that Lan Han Shuang even brought out the elders, and he wondered what she was planning. Lan Han Shuang revealed that the Ghost Clan has officially drawn for peace with their alliance, so the elders have decided to temporarily stop the war and everyone could take a break for a while. However, Lan Han Shuang pronounced that the Len family has personal matters she needs to take revenge for, so whoever is willing to kill the sworn enemy of her son, the elders will satisfy any one wish of theirs. One of the guests probed if the elders would really fulfill any one wish. Another expressed that they were really going all out, and another conveyed that Lan Han Shuang was relentless, that she held her own son's head all the way there. Meanwhile, Lan Han Shuang envisioned that Yifeng would die a dog's death for that. On the other hand, Yifeng was back on campus. He suddenly sneezed. Yifeng demanded who was talking about him, and Fei Qian teased that it was definitely not a hottie. Yifeng insisted that Fei Qian should stop with the gibberish because he already knew his situation, and he inquired Fei Qian what he was planning to do and if he was going to continue following him. Fei Qian opined that it doesn't matter if Yifeng was the reincarnation of the demonic king or a university loser because they were always homies, and whatever happens, they will get through it together. Yifeng let out a sigh. He laughed and pointed out that he would take care of that because he was not so sure if Fei Qian could carry through problems with that build of his. Fei Qian retorted that Yifeng insulted him face front, and as he quizzed him how he was going to go back to the demonic planet, he confirmed that he could handle the upcoming problems well enough with his big build and heart. Yifeng agreed and acknowledged that he was rejoiced to heed Fei Qian's kind words, but he requested him if he would care to help him out with managing resources. Suddenly, a man entered the room. He called Yifeng and notified that the Bai family has important matters to discuss. Yifeng indicated that it looked like the Len family came for him. A few moments later, Yifeng came to his new house. Qin Zhu imparted that she had been there for so many days looking after Yifeng's house, and he pursued him if he was not going to at least say hi after coming in and where his manners are. Yifeng grilled Qin Zhu if that house was not built by her organization to get on his good side and proposed that she should go complain to her group. Qin Zhu was pissed when she heard what Yifeng voiced. She challenged Yifeng how he manages to make her want to die every time she meets him, and as she cursed him, she avowed that she left. Yifeng furrowed his brows, and he stared intently at the key that Qin Zhu threw at him. He examined Qin Zhu what the goal of their organization was. Qin Zhu elaborated that science has no boundaries, so even when it comes to cultivation, which is ultimately all about making use of external forces to strengthen oneself, it was all reasonable from the perspective of a scientist. But where those powers came from is what they care about the most. She claimed that only the ones that could help them get closer to the origin of those powers are qualified to be their friends. Yifeng cross-examined Qin Zhu if that was the case and hammered what the invisible cloak was. A man who coughed up blood was revealed when the cloak got unveiled by Yifeng's attack. Qin Zhu was lost for words when she saw what happened to the man. Yifeng cautioned that they shouldn't forget that they are in need of him, so they shouldn't cross the line, and as he pried Qin Zhu if it was clear, he insisted that she should trust him because she doesn't want to get on the bad side of the demon version of him. Qin Zhu met with Bai Yi and Master Bai in their residence. Master Bai inquired whether Qin Zhu stated that her organization also has many issues and why there were still people who tried to assassinate Yifeng. Qin Zhu declared that it was true that the organization sometimes has different opinions and would be split. However, that would not affect Bai Yi if she decided to join their group. Bai Yi questioned Qin Zhu if she could really join Wang of the Leaf. Qin Zhu mentioned that being one of the top research organizations, Wang of the Leaf usually doesn't let anyone join in. But since Yifeng has given Bai Yi the credits for curing the poison of the demonic mosquito, naturally it was normal for her to be eligible. Bai Yi suddenly remarked that she couldn't help having an itch every time they mentioned Yifeng, and Qin Zhu added that honestly was the same too. Qin Zhu was about to say something, and Bai Yi queried her what was wrong. She began snickering sinisterly. Qin Zhu commented that Bai Yi has the first task for her as a member of the organization. She noted that it was to exchange everything with her and observe everything about Yifeng. Bai Yi yelled, and she wondered why she had to be around that bastard. Meanwhile, Yifeng rested at his house. Yifeng wondered what happened on the demonic planet at that moment, and he considered that he fought for so long to make himself a place there when he was banished there as a slave. He pondered that he was currently on a new journey, and there are many other people from the planet like Poison Wolf being scattered on Earth, so he needed to find a way to reunite them. Yifeng sat up on his bed, and he looked uncomfortable. He probed Poison Wolf about what he did there, and Poison Wolf stated that Yifeng seemed a bit sentimental there, so he did not want to bother him. Yifeng affirmed that Poison Wolf lost to him during the last promotion stage on the demonic planet, and as he demanded of Poison Wolf whether he did not hate him, he expressed that the spot should have been his. Poison Wolf uttered that if you were to say that he did not, that would be fake. But after Yifeng got the spot, he could feel the difference between them clearly, and it was not possible for him to reach that height. He acknowledged that he felt that the promotion was correct and the spot should have been Yifeng's. Poison Wolf voiced that Yifeng was able to lead the whole demonic planet to break loose from the control of the other planets. He pronounced that everyone looks at Yifeng like a hero, and he really does admire him from the bottom of his heart, so no matter what his king, Yifeng, wanted to do, he would obey him with no other words. Yifeng immediately announced that they needed to solve the issue on the demonic planet soon. But at the moment, the Len family is the problem at hand, as they have already put out the commands to kill him, and he cannot sit there and wait. Poison Wolf pressed Yifeng about what he planned to do. Yifeng indicated that they needed to start off strong, so they should go and give a greeting to the Alliance that night. A few moments later, Yifeng went to a huge building, which was the location of the Alliance. He drove a white car. Yifeng recalled that Qinzu conveyed that they have disputes in their organization too, and she swore that the person trying to kill him was not from their side, as they really do not want to be enemies with him, and he has to believe her. He believed that as the price to forgive Qinzu, she secretly told him the location of the Alliance. A valet suddenly approached Yifeng and suggested that he should let him park his car. Yifeng nonchalantly tossed his keys towards the valet. But a man intercepted Yifeng's keys before the valet could catch them, and he urged that Yifeng should hold on. The man cross-examined Yifeng whether he was coming there without permission, and Yifeng wanted to know what he meant. The man grilled Yifeng whether he was not scared that he would not make it out alive. Yifeng responded that he was there to spend some money. He inquired with the man whether they were not open for business and insisted that he was the customer, and he brought money. The man voiced a question to Yifeng about why that would be and replied that the Red Diamond nightclub always has doors open for customers. Yifeng ordered that the man should go park his car, and the man was left speechless. The man answered yes. He reached out to grab Yifeng. The man observed that whatever Yifeng had in mind, he did not know why he was delivering himself straight to their door, and that he should not claim that he did not warn him. Yifeng spoke okay and that his expectations were high. On the other hand, there were people from the Alliance having a closed-door meeting. One of them pointed out that Yifeng actually sent himself straight to them, so it was the perfect opportunity. A lady shared that they all know the strength of the eldest of Gong. She insisted that she meant that it was not hard to kill Gong Yunfei, and he requested if they could let her if no one wanted to try. An old man agreed sure and that if the lady wanted it. Suddenly, Yifeng knocked on the door. The blonde man cursed as he quizzed who it was and if they did not know that they were in a meeting. Someone warned that the blonde man should wait and he should not open the door. But the door suddenly burst open. The blonde man fell on the floor, and the door crushed him as it fell on top of him. Yifeng implored what the meeting was and if they had figured out how to take care of him yet. He cursed, and as he exclaimed that there was another one on the bottom, he interrogated the blonde man if that was his hobby. The blonde man was enraged, and as he was about to threaten Yifeng cut him off and explained that his eyes looked off, and he could see that the blonde man wanted to kill him so he should go die. The lady and the old man were alarmed when they saw what Yifeng did. Yifeng requested if they needed him to tell them his weaknesses. The lady nervously smiled, but she did not say anything. Yifeng laughed, and as he professed that the woman was not bad as he was obedient, he sought to find out from the other one if he wanted to surrender or die. But Yifeng was startled when he noticed that the huge silhouette behind him was about to attack. With the man behind him, Yifeng smirked at the people from the Alliance. The lady inquired what was happening. Yifeng just stood there while he had the man behind him under his control. He addressed the old man as uncle and queried if he was the head of the place. The old man was silent for a moment, and he probed what he did and what happened to the man. Yifeng interrogated if he wanted to know and remarked that the old man should come with him and become like the man as one of his soldiers. He used his skill, Soul Steel. The lady was stunned, and Yifeng's aura conquered her eyes. The same thing also happened to the old man. The two of them just stood there like puppets waiting to be controlled. Yifeng declared that from that point onward, the place belongs to him, and it will no longer be a part of the Alliance, so he will give them permission to kill anyone stepping in there. The old man and the lady answered yes. Yifeng called Fei Qian and noted that the Red Diamond nightclub was already his, but he shouldn't ask why. He wondered if it was not a hard thing to do. Qinzu stated that Yifeng was going overboard and that they have their boundaries too. Yifeng challenged if that was true and if she was not planning to partner with him anymore, and he added that he had to continue counting the assassination on her if that was the case. Qinzu conceded fine and that Yifeng wins, but it was the only time she would do such a thing. Yifeng asserted that Qinzu should tell him why she came there. Qinzu explained that she was ordered by the organization to transfer the citizens so Bai would switch with her, and if Yifeng needed anything, Bai would be there to touch base with him. But Yifeng claimed that he usually doesn't ask favors from anyone else. Bai observed that Yifeng was a bastard and pressed what he was doing. She uttered that Yifeng was harassing girls under broad daylight, and while Yifeng cursed and queried what she was going to do about it, Kinzu sighed as she believed that they should just get it done and over with quickly. A few moments later, Kinzu conveyed that she would explain to Yifeng everything she knows, which meant that Yifeng shouldn't cause problems for Baiyi as she is just a newbie. Yifeng replied okay and that he will take care of Baiyi. Kinzu deemed that she was not buying that, but Baiyi commented that she should come on and finish explaining. Kinzu indicated that although Wang of the Leaf is a big organization, no one could really say the size of it. She mentioned that the department in Jiang City that she is currently in is just an extremely small section of the whole. Kinzu informed that according to the legends, the organization is thoroughly controlling governments all around the world with huge powers to their word and numerous resources. She acknowledged that it is only natural for there to be arguments within themselves, as everyone is using their own methods to do things that they think are correct. Nonetheless, the influence the group holds is very big. Yifeng pondered if the Ghost Clan was part of the organization. He queried if she could help him invite the director of the clan out, and Kinzu challenged why he was so troublesome. Kinzu maintained that it was the last thing she was doing for Yifeng, and she is leaving so Yifeng shouldn't find her again. She quickly got on her phone, and as she apologized to Zunner for bothering her, she inquired if it was possible for her to come to the Red Diamond nightclub for a minute. Yifeng was surprised and puzzled when he heard Zunner's name. Meanwhile, at the shipping container yard, a guard screamed as he got strangled. A man avowed that the outer gates are cleared and the Ghost Clan has no defense at all. He called his master, and a group of men emerged from the shadows. The master opined that they should do it, and everyone responded yes. Two groups of men fought with each other in the yard's open space. The master professed that he is hoping that after that night, the Ghost Clan will not exist. He confirmed that they will finish up there, and their next target is Yifeng. On the other hand, Zunner mused why he wanted to see her so badly. Yifeng confirmed that he already said that he dislikes people hiding things from him, and he queried what she was planning with the Ghost Clan. Baiyi commented that Zunner doesn't want to say it and demanded why he was making her. Yifeng insisted that Zunner just has to tell him if she is related to the demonic planet. Zunner smiled pensively. She proclaimed that Yifeng is her king, and he really likes to have everything held in his palms. Yifeng queried how the demonic planet was going to survive if he didn't do such a thing. Zunner conveyed that Yifeng was the one who told them to hide their identity back then, but if he insists, she will tell him. She confirmed that she is part of the royalty subordinate team. Yifeng pressed for her name. Zunner averred that she is the royal guard Tong Zunner. Yifeng recognized who Tong Zunner was. Meanwhile, Baiyi wondered if they were cosplaying. Suddenly, Tong Zunner's phone rang. As she picked the call up, she immediately queried on the line what they expressed. Liu Chen, who is part of the criminal clan, lunged on the rooftop. He remarked that it was a bustling night. A man addressed Liu Chen as his chief man criminal and stated that the other chiefs have resolved the fight, and the Demon Gate experts don't seem to be around. Liu Chen declared that the clan has such a large management, so if the 3 criminals and 5 specters do take action, the clan will really get rid of the Demon Gate at that time. He noted that he likes such ball games too much. Suddenly, the 5 Spectre clan arrived, and one of them called Liu Chen and mentioned that they had turned the entire place upside down, but they still had yet to find the 2 bloody specters from the Demon Gate. Liu Chen asserted that they should be celebrating and inquired if they believed the 5 of them would still be alive if those 2 bloody specters were still around. One of the specters, the green-haired one, queried if he was looking for a fight with the 5 of them. Liu Chen mockingly commented that they were scary and that 5 of them should come at him. As Liu Chen and the green-haired specter were about to fight, Hua King butted in and expressed that Liu Chen should stop it. Everyone was stunned, and they all looked at the mini whirlwind formed in front of them. Hua King probed how he could fight with his own people and observed that he should get off his knife. The green-haired specter greeted Hua King as their chief. Liu Chen avowed that since the chief heaven criminal has spoken, the specters should just take it that 5 of their lives have been spared for the time being. The green-haired specter was pissed and was about to retaliate, but the bandaged specter stopped him. Hua King wondered if he wished to stir up trouble and suggested that he join him. Liu Chen quickly dropped his knife and raised his hands. He interrogated what trouble there was to stir up. Hua King conveyed that all of them should go help Earth Criminal as she happened to cross paths with Tong Zunner, whom they need to quickly dispose of. The 5 Spectre clan all responded yes. Hua King informed that they should make sure to see it done. He called Liu Chen and instructed that he should come with him to find the Heaven and Earth Spectre twins, as they must put a stop to their actions. On the other hand, Yifeng was stuck in traffic with Tong Zunner and Baiyi. Yifeng challenged if she gave the right directions and if that road was really the fastest, and added that there is a traffic jam in front of them. Tong Zunner replied yes and that the navigator stated that that road was the fastest. Yifeng advised that Tong Zunner should hold on tight then, as he will show her an even faster route. Baiyi inquired what he was doing. She screamed as they drove through the center island and went to the other road. Cars drove in the opposite direction on that side of the road. but Yifeng didn't mind, and he continued to drive against the flow of traffic. Tong's Honor affirmed that, as expected from the Demon Emperor, the place perfectly avoids traffic jams. Bai Yi mused if they really came from hell and exclaimed that it was so bizarre. Yifeng examined if she was still unable to believe that he was a Demon Emperor who came from another universe, even if she was already part of such a bizarre organization. Suddenly, they heard a noise at the top of their car. The Earth Criminal landed at the top of their moving car. Tong's Honor proclaimed that Yifeng should feel free to open the door because she will handle it. Yifeng cautioned that Tong's Honor should be careful. Tong's Honor assured that Yifeng shouldn't worry. She was surprised when she saw the Earth Criminal. The Earth Criminal stood there majestically with the bright moon behind her. Tong's Honor was amused as she recognized the Earth Criminal. The Earth Criminal wondered what it mattered and if she was not on par with her. Who was her older sister? Tong's Honor uttered that the Earth Criminal shouldn't interfere. The Earth Criminal claimed that it depends on Tong's Honor's own skills. She kicked Tong's Honor, and Tong's Honor barely dodged it, so her top got ripped. But instead of getting upset, Tong's Honor got excited and grinned. The two of them continued fighting while the car was moving. Tong's Honor suddenly exclaimed that the attack was for the Earth Criminal. She kicked the Earth Criminal, which she barely dodged, and got her top ripped as well. The Earth Criminal added that Tong's Honor was a brat, and it looked like she wasn't able to skin her whole. Suddenly, the green-haired specter opined that he could see them, so they should get ready. They were looking at Yifeng, who drove on an empty street. Yifeng was alarmed when he noticed a huge concrete flying towards them. Tong's Honor and the Earth Criminal also noticed it. Yifeng quickly hit the brakes and barely dodged the concrete while Tong's Honor and the Earth Criminal quickly jumped off the car. The green-haired specter scoffed and remarked that they had caught a big one. Yifeng commented that it was an extravagant way to greet someone. The Earth Criminal acknowledged that on that day, it was the place where Yifeng would die. Amused, Yifeng concluded that he would like to see them try. The road they fought in was mysteriously empty. Tong's Honor declared that it was one member of the Union's elite combat unit, the 3 Calamities and 5 Fiends, and their combat abilities are all above rank D. Yifeng remarked that he loved the life forces of those strong fighters so he could finally get a good meal. But Tong's Honor asserted that Yifeng should take Bai Yi and leave those people to her. She immediately charged forward and started fighting with the green-haired specter. Looking at Bai Yi, Yifeng deemed that it was troublesome. Yifeng stated that Bai Yi should hide well on the sidelines there and be careful. Bai Yi wished them good luck and noted that she believes that they could win. Suddenly, Tong's Honor claimed that there was no way she could let her lord personally intervene. But Yifeng insisted that Tong's Honor should leave those people to him, and she doesn't have to do anything. Tong's Honor surmised that as expected, Yifeng is still the Lord Demonic Emperor who fought heaven and earth from all those years ago. The Earth Criminal was caught off guard when Tong's Honor started charging at her. Tong's Honor commented that if the Earth Criminal wanted to fight Yifeng, she would have to get through her first, and the Earth Criminal retorted that Tong's Honor was a little brat that was so clingy. On the other hand, Yifeng proclaimed that the 5 specters should come, all of them at once. The 5 specters replied, of course. Yifeng summoned his spirit lion. The lion let out a powerful roar, which incapacitated the green-haired specter. The black-haired specter inquired if he was okay. He cursed and queried where the spirit lion came from and how it was that even the damage from its roar was so big. The black-haired specter screamed in pain when Yifeng punched him in the gut while releasing a powerful aura. The old man specter and the bandaged specter observed that Yifeng shouldn't get cocky, but Yifeng just swung his arms while releasing his powerful aura and eliminated the remaining specters in one swift motion. He maintained that they were too weak. On the other hand, Tong's Honor was still fighting with the Earth Criminal. The Earth Criminal mentioned that as expected from Tong's Honor of the Ghost Sect, she is pretty good. Tong's Honor affirmed that the Earth Criminals Union stopped all combat outwardly, set up an ambush behind their backs and even sent all their best soldiers, and she wondered what exactly they were planning. She expressed that if the Earth Criminal doesn't spit it out, she will just have to beat it out of her. Meanwhile, Yifeng checked the bodies of the specters to see if they were truly dead. The Earth Criminal explained that those 2 old geezers from Tong's Honor's Ghost Sect aren't there, so she just has to delay Tong's Honor because their only goal was Yifeng and those 5 useless things. The 5 specters haven't progressed at all after so long, and they still needed their big sister to back them up. She advised that Tong's Honor should say goodbye to her lord. Tong's Honor was alarmed when she heard what the Earth Criminal revealed. The Earth Criminal laughed and added that the Union needed to get rid of Yifeng and he couldn't escape. Suddenly, the 5 specters rose back up. Yifeng opined that he would command Tong's Honor not to come over there, but Tong's Honor responded no. He avowed that her lord, Demonic Emperor, brought hope to the demonic planet as well as figure generations, so she definitely won't leave Yifeng there. She averred that she wouldn't be anything at that moment if it weren't for Yifeng. Tong's Honor quickly charged headfirst towards Yifeng to help. She requested for Yifeng to leave. Tong's Honor was caught off guard when the old man specter managed to intercept her. Yifeng clicked his tongue and indicated that those pieces of garbage looked like they had already researched how to use the Asura mask. He swung his scythe at the specters charging at him. Yifeng looked behind him and checked up on Tong Zunner. Tong Zunner managed to dodge the old man specter's attack. She counterattacked and conveyed that the old man specter should piss off. Suddenly, Yifeng's scythe pierced through the old man specter. He intimated that Tong Zunner almost hit him. Tong Zunner probed if he was alright. Yifeng contended that he obviously wasn't challenged if she didn't know how strong he was. But Tong Zunner suddenly warned Yifeng and informed him that he should look behind him. The two remaining specters jumped at Yifeng from behind. Tong Zunner pushed Yifeng away and charged towards the two specters. The vessels of the two specters popped off their faces and they looked rabid. Yifeng called Tong Zunner with worry. A huge explosion occurred. Yifeng used his arm to protect himself from the dust and debris of the explosion. Suddenly, he coughed up blood as a blade pierced his back and peeked out of his chest. The Earth Criminal cursed and uttered that the Lord Devil Emperor should go back to his hellhole. Yifeng inquired if she was trying to die. He grabbed the blade in his chest. The Earth Criminal laughed as she queried if he was posing her that question, and she proclaimed that he would regret going against their clan in his next life. Blood continued to ooze out of Yifeng's body. Yifeng used his skill, demonic slaying technique, Blood Fury. His blood went and chased after the Earth Criminal. The Earth Criminal was agitated when she saw that she was being chased. She cursed and remarked that they should get away. The Earth Criminal stated that Yifeng was playing tricks on her. She declared that he should go die. But to the Earth Criminal's surprise, she couldn't move her body. The Earth Criminal's entire body was restrained by Yifeng's aura. Yifeng asserted that the Earth Criminal should go ahead and try. He glared at the Earth Criminal as he pulled out the blade from his body. Yifeng noted that the Earth Criminal should get ready to regret being born. The Earth Criminal was terrified when she saw that Yifeng's dark aura started to surround her. She tried to request help, but it was too late. The Earth Criminal was quickly enclosed in a huge orb of dark aura. Yifeng went to check on Tong Zunner. He gently carried Tong Zunner off the road. Yifeng sighed as he worried for Tong Zunner. Coming out of the car, Bai probed if Tong Zunner was okay. Yifeng mentioned that Tong Zunner is a bit unstable at the moment, so they needed to find a place to rest. Bai solicited about the Earth Criminal. Yifeng observed that the Earth Criminal's whole being, including her spirit, will be dissolved, and she will become a blood slave forever as she will pay for hurting his people. Bai believed that Yifeng really came out straight from hell, and it was a good thing that she didn't get on his bad side. On the other hand, Yifeng considered that he had already stabilized Tong Zunner's soul, and the most important thing at the moment is to help her recover from the injuries, but the energy from the Shura soldiers has already seeped into her body, and it will be a hassle to treat. He commented that Bai should go to the side for a second, as he needed to save Tong Zunner, and Bai wondered why she needed to leave. Yifeng affirmed that injecting his energy is the only way. He maintained that Tong Zunner shouldn't blame him because he had no other choice. Yifeng entered the car, and the car started gently swaying. Meanwhile, a white orb appeared, and Bai investigated why it looked different. Bai leaned closer to take a look. She was startled when two ghosts suddenly appeared. One of the ghosts interrogated if she had seen Tong Zunner, and Bai quickly replied that she was in the car. Realizing what she just said, Bai tried to stop the ghosts, but she was too late as they were already heading for the car. The two ghosts headed towards the car at an incredible speed. Bai called Yifeng with worry, but she suddenly noticed the shaking movement of the car and exclaimed that Yifeng was a bastard. Bai challenged what he was doing there. Suddenly, the Earth Criminal showed up and blocked the two ghosts. The two ghosts were startled when the Earth Criminal started releasing her powerful aura and attacked them. The black ghost quickly jumped in the air while the white ghost charged forward. The two of them attacked the Earth Criminal simultaneously and cut her body to pieces. But the Earth Criminal's body just connected back together, and she smiled sinisterly at the ghosts. The two ghosts were taken aback when they saw what just happened. They were puzzled when the Earth Criminal retreated. Yifeng expressed that the ghosts shouldn't be rude. The two ghosts stood there and faced Yifeng. Yifeng demanded to know if they were the two Heaven and Earth twin ghosts. Bai recognized them as the two most powerful people from the Ghost clan, and she wondered how the blood slave was able to block both of them. Yifeng pressed if they were puppets and how they looked so much like real people. Tong Zunner replied that if Yifeng doesn't mind, she could teach him. But Yifeng indicated that there was no need as he intended to give Tong Zunner the blood slave anyways. Bai quizzed why he was giving the blood slave out and answered that she is so strong. Yifeng conveyed that Bai shouldn't worry as he will create more of them very soon. Master Bai had tea with Lin Haoyuan in his courtyard. Lin Haoyuan is the deputy minister from Wang of the Leaf of Jiangdong province. Master Bai stated that Bai is already in Lin Haoyuan's hands, and he requested that he take care of her. Lin Haoyuan asserted that he would most definitely do so, and as being a part of the team for that province, he will look after Bai with his best abilities. Suddenly, the sound of a car caught the attention of Lin Haoyuan and Master Bai. A black car rammed against the gate of Master Bai's mansion and destroyed it. Lin Haoyuan watched closely as the car stopped. Master Leng came out of the car and inquired where Yifeng was. Lin Haoyuan observed that it had been a long time since he saw the fourth son of the Leng family, and he queried how he had been. Master Lang noted that the matter is only between the Langs and Yifeng, so Wang of the Leaf is best left out of the matter. Master Bai suddenly chimed in and interrogated if he wasn't being excessive at the moment by driving right through his gates. Master Lang extended his hand to grab Master Bai in retaliation, but Lin Haoyuan grabbed Master Lang's wrist and stopped him. Lin Haoyuan wondered if it was the first thing he did after they met once again. Master Bai challenged if he didn't think that his organization was doing a bit much there. Lin Haoyuan declared that he wouldn't be doing anything if it was only about Yifeng. However, Master Lang is on the grounds of the Bai family at the moment. Master Lang mentioned that he is not going to continue it further with Lin Haoyuan there, and it will be over between him and the Bai family once Yifeng comes to find him himself. Lin Haoyuan probed what he thinks. Master Bai remarked that Master Lang is going too far because Yifeng is his savior, and he will protect him and was never going to let him go like that. Master Lang expressed that it was great, and as he pressed if it was how he wanted things to be, he conveyed that he would give him 3 days. He maintained that if Yifeng does not come to find him within that time, Master Bai's family will disappear. Meanwhile, Yifeng's car parked in front of a quiet building. Tong Zunner silently sat on a table, reflected deeply about something. On the other hand, Yifeng leaned against the wall and remained deep in his reflections. Bai quizzed and Yifeng what the two of them were doing and why they weren't talking. Yifeng commented that if he is not mistaken, Bai's family has already been targeted by the Langs, so he is trying to think of ways to clear his name from her family. Bai was surprised when she heard that the Lang family was targeting them. Yifeng indicated that he is pretty sure that at that point, the Lang family has figured out every single connection he has in Jiang City, and the Yi family hasn't noticed him at all, so the Langs wouldn't care about their opinions, and the only ones left are the Bais. Bai affirmed that it was really bad, and she needed to inform her grandfather immediately because with the power they have at the moment, there is no way they could fight the Lang family. Suddenly, Tong Zunner called Bai and informed that her gates had already been destroyed by the fourth son of Lang, and her grandfather avowed that he wouldn't be abandoning Yifeng. Bai scrutinized what she said, and she screamed in exasperation for her grandfather. Yifeng opined that he will have to think ahead of his plan then. He averred that Bai and Tong Zunner could go home first and take care of Lin Feng, Fei Qian, and Nzai, and he had other things for Poison Wolf to do. Tong Zunner demanded what he was about to do. Yifeng professed that he will go catch some more assistants. A few moments later, Yifeng and Poison Wolf went to a hotel. Poison Wolf looked uncomfortable as he and Yifeng wore formal clothes and acted like rich men. At the reception, Poison Wolf relayed that he wanted to book a presidential room for a week. The receptionist apologized to Poison Wolf and uttered that the 2 presidential rooms they have are already booked. Yifeng pulled out a black card and requested the receptionist to help them out. The receptionist quickly excused herself and revealed that her manager might be able to swap out the rooms for them. Poison Wolf and Yifeng looked at each other and smiled. A few moments later, Poison Wolf got out of the elevator alone. When Poison Wolf passed by the other presidential room, he slowed down. He advised that Yifeng should be careful. Yifeng was in his shadow form, and he slid under the door to enter the presidential room. He used his skill, demon slaying technique, shadow forging. Meanwhile, Luo Chen lounged on the sofa in the room. He was startled when he suddenly felt Yifeng's presence behind him. Luo Chen quickly looked behind him. He inquired how he got in. Yifeng proclaimed that it was not important anymore because from that point onward, Luo Chen was his blood slave. He used his skill, demonic slaying technique, Blood Fury. Luo Chen was in so much pain as Yifeng's aura pierced him around his neck like a collar. He screamed, and his eyes were bloodshot due to pain. While Luo Chen suffered, Yifeng just had his back turned to him. Yifeng glanced at Luo Chen and concluded that Luo Chen was his. Hua King was also in the hotel. The door to his room was ajar. He was out of breath as the enslaved Luo Chen loomed over him. He demanded what he wanted. There was no response from Luo Chen. Yifeng chimed in and remarked that Luo Chen was just there to help him out. He adjusted his glasses. He mentioned that it was nice to meet Hua King, and his name is Yifeng. He realized the timing was not that great at the moment, but he still wanted him to finish listening to what he wished to express. He had 2 options. One was to swear with his blood to become his servant. The other was to become a blood slave puppet like Luo Chen. Hua King replied that it was interesting. He knelt on the floor. He inquired if swearing to become his slave will make him forgive him. He will do it no matter what. But he opened a magic circle behind him. Smoke and a blinding light filled the room. Yifeng remained calm despite the situation. On the other hand, Hua King used the distraction as a chance to jump through the balcony and escape. He concluded that Yifeng was way too dangerous, so he needed to warn Lang Si. Yifeng observed that he really jumped from that height. But it was fine because there is no way he will be able to jump out of his palms anyways. Luo Chen jumped off the balcony as well. He chased after Hua King. Hua King shouted that he will regret betraying the clan. He threw his kunai towards the building wall while he wrapped the string attached to it around his arm. He used it to change his direction and enter a room. Luo Chen continued falling from the building. He was surprised when he saw Hua King ready to attack. His attack blew up in his face. Hua King released his powerful aura and blood was smeared onto his face. Yifeng remarked that he should feel free to continue running because he wanted to see where his clan hides nonetheless. A few moments later, Hua King arrived at a yacht. He knelt in front of Leng Si. He was in the middle of reporting when he was cut off. Leng Si asserted that the elders will be very disappointed because they provided him with so many opportunities, and they even let him use the 5 spirits as cannon fodder. Hua King coughed up blood as he got hit by Leng Si's attack. Leng Si challenged if running away was the way he paid them back. He should get out immediately because if he can't get rid of Yifeng, he doesn't need to come back anymore. Suddenly, Hua King's eyes turned red. An ominous red aura swirled around him as he stood up. Leng Si recognized that he knew it was Yifeng. He fired his attack. His attack was so powerful that it damaged the yacht and expelled Hua King's body. But his body got pieced back together. It started to take form as a shadowy, static figure. Leng Si confessed that he was surprised that he was still able to revive himself after that. Yifeng confirmed that obviously he was Yifeng, and he didn't imagine he would be so ruthless with his own subordinates, but he liked that. Leng Si fired another attack at him. He declared that he doesn't have time to chat with him as he will be a corpse in no time. Yifeng's teleportation skills are different from the rest, and he needed to warn the headquarters. Meanwhile, Yifeng was still at the hotel. He was looking over the bright city from the window. He reflected that he feels like Leng Si will not be an easy enemy as he has interesting ideas. Poison Wolf called him and informed that the people he told them to take care of were already all protected, and he queried if they should leave. Yifeng insisted that since they were already there, they should not waste the good wine the clan had provided them. Poison Wolf wondered how he was drinking wine at that moment. Yifeng responded that it was just right because there will be many events coming up that night that go great with some wine. Fei Qian was at the Red Diamond nightclub. He claimed that the nightclub is owned by his family, so obviously everyone listens to him there. He has been yapping non-stop and berating the staff. Poison Wolf considered that he had literally talked for an hour and wondered how he was not tired. Suddenly, he noticed Zhao Heng. Meanwhile, Fei Qian picked up a glass of water from the table. He drank it. Poison Wolf indicated that he should move because there is a customer. Fei Qian questioned why he hit him so hard. Poison Wolf inquired what he was doing. Zhao Heng just stood there and voiced nothing. Fei Qian queried who he was. He responded that he was there to find Yifeng. A few moments later, Zhao Heng was brought to Yifeng's residence. Yifeng sat with him in the living room. Zhao Heng explained that there is a file that the elders from the clan wanted him to send to him, and he just needed to know that the clan is really not as uniform as it looks. Yifeng demanded who he belonged to. Zhao Heng remarked that he could say that it is not the Lengs. Yifeng acknowledged that he got the message and instructed that Poison Wolf should help him send off Zhao Heng. Zhao Heng stood up, and Poison Wolf ushered him. On the other hand, Leng Si suggested that Zai should come with him, as he could help her. Zai contemplated it, but she voiced nothing. Suddenly, the nurse queried if she was the family of bed number 7 and explained that the patient required immediate surgery because conservative therapy was not sustainable anymore. She was stunned. She consented to the surgery and requested for the nurse to help her mom as she will get the money soon while chasing after Leng Si. She declared that she will go with him. However, he will need to pay for the bills for her mom. Leng Si agreed, sure, but inquired if she knew who he was. She replied that she doesn't care at the moment, but if he manages to save her mom, she will owe him her life. Leng Si affirmed that it was good. Zai resolved that she would not drag Yifeng behind even if it meant death, so he didn't need to worry. Meanwhile, Yifeng directed that his soul slave should go look after Zhao Heng, find out who is behind him. The soul slave transformed into a tiny butterfly. It flew out the window. On the other hand, Poison Wolf wondered if there are a lot of people in the clans pulling strings like that. Zhao Heng confirmed yes, as it is quite a big group. There are people of all kinds in there, so he would request him to keep the meeting that day a secret and thanked him. Poison Wolf pondered if it counts that Wang of the Leaf knows because they have quite a lot of cameras around there. In the car, Zhao Heng called Zhu, and as he informed that he had completed the task he assigned him, he questioned if Yifeng was really that important. Zhu explained that he has been in the clan for many years already and there have always been new faces popping up here and there. However, none of them will be able to compete with Yifeng, and he will see what he means. Zhao Heng affirmed that he understood. However, he wondered what will happen if people are able to find out that Leng Si's plans have been leaked. Zhu predicted that if he is not wrong, Leng Si will die in Yifeng's hands soon as well. Meanwhile, Yifeng was observing by the window. Poison Wolf reminded that he told him that in order to get back to the demonic planet, he will need the help of those people, but he questioned if they were really trustworthy. Yifeng insisted that he doesn't think about killing and violence all day and he has to use his brain. Wang of the Leaf is also using them there as they wanted them to be their test subject and use their knowledge, but it is fine because they are benefiting from them either way and they won't be doing anything to them yet. Poison Wolf clarified if he was suggesting that one of the two, Wang of the Leaf or the clan, will be working with them no matter what. Yifeng affirmed that it was right, and if they sent themselves to them directly, there was no reason not to accept it. He feels that the plan of Lang Si kidnapping and Zai to threaten him is real. His phone notified him that the user he had called was out of service, and he instructed that Poison Wolf should go protect Zai at that moment. If she gets injured in any way, there is no need for him to come back, as there are too many mysteries about her that he still needs to solve. Poison Wolf confirmed that he will do it. Yifeng pondered if Lang Si was really trying to use Zai against him, and even if she wasn't hewing her, he would never let anyone touch her, no one. Evening came, and Zai was still at the hospital. She was anxiously waiting. She was requesting for her mom to be safe. She looked up when she noticed Lang Si. He observed that it looked like she really did need money. She admitted that it was right. He speculated if Yifeng was not helping her. She explained that she has borrowed money from all her relatives, and she doesn't want to continue bothering them. He looked at her and reflected about things. Poison Wolf arrived at the hospital in a car. He ran out of it as soon as it got parked. Meanwhile, Lang Si and Zai were walking out of the hospital. Poison Wolf inquired who he was. Lang Si cursed at him and demanded who he was to talk to him. Poison Wolf declared that Zai is someone Yifeng is protecting specifically, so he will not be getting away that easily. Lang Si released his aura to attack him without any warning. Poison Wolf was caught by surprise. He was not able to dodge and was only able to protect himself from the attack with his arms. He was pushed back and crashed into his car. Lang Si was too strong, and he needed to save Zai. He urged that Zai should run. Lang Si commanded that he should shut up. He kicked him and sent him flying in the air. Poison Wolf was midair and was falling on his back. Lang Si appeared in front of him before he could hit the ground. He punched him in the stomach. The punch was so strong that the dust and debris flew all over the place as Poison Wolf crashed on the ground. Zai suggested that they should stop and not fight anymore. Lang Si questioned why she didn't borrow money from Yifeng if her mom was sick. She recalled how pitiful Yifeng appeared. She reasoned that she understands that he is having a hard time too, and she can't depend on him all the time. If he didn't just want to take her anyway, she would go with him. He remarked that she saw that it was Poison Wolf that blocked his path first, and he is just like a dog needing to be trained by his master, so Yifeng should be more responsible. He should be grateful to the little girl because she saved his life. Zai wondered about her mom's bills. Lang Si reassured that he will do what he promised, and it has nothing to do with her mom. He will be paying the bills in a moment, and they should go immediately. She concluded that he is a good person and she will go with him. But if he wanted to use her to harm Yifeng, she would kill herself. On the other hand, Yifeng was meditating in his room. He opened his eyes. The replicant of the blood slave was killed, so he needed to take back his energy for the meantime, as Lang Si of the Lang family is hard to deal with. Suddenly, his phone rang in his pocket. He questioned what he meant. He was dead for sure. He left his house in a hurry. Meanwhile, Lang Si was in his yacht. Yifeng arrived. Amused, Lang Si wondered if he finally came. Yifeng warned that it was his death day. Lang Si doubted if he really had that skill. Yifeng insisted that he does what he promises. Lang Si affirmed that it was good and welcomed him to the burial that he had made specifically for him. Yifeng hopped into the yacht. He was surprised when he saw Zai. She was lying on a bed of white roses, unconscious. She was still breathing, and he wondered what Lang Si was doing. Lin Lan was revealed, and she was tied to a pole. Lang Si was about to pull the fabric on another surprise. It was Poison Wolf who was in a coffin. Lang Si explained that the traitor Zhao Heng took half of his whole plan and couldn't wait to tell Yifeng, so he guessed she missed the rest of the surprise he had for him. Yifeng demanded what he wanted to do. Lang Si clarified that he wanted to finish the marriage, and Yifeng will be the marriage's funeral objects and complete the marriage. Yifeng questioned if it was really a ghost marriage and admitted that he miscalculated. Lang Si stressed that he has no more people on his side unless Tong Zunner doesn't care about the life or death of the Bai family, but he has sent people to wipe out the Bais anyways, and no one was there to help him. Yifeng scoffed and asserted that it was nothing compared to the things he faced on the demonic planet, so he should come on and fight him. Lang Si remarked that it should have been the wedding day of Gong Yunfei and Lin Lan. Although a lot had changed, what needed to be done would still be done, and Zai would be the dowry. Yifeng declared that he was dead for sure. One of Lang Si's men abruptly noted that Yifeng was only there to watch. He shouldn't rush the process or else the boat would sink to hell with him. Yifeng used his skill, demonic slaying weapon, Ghost Sword. The man got nervous. His weapon was sliced in half along with his body. Yifeng warned that he should go away. Suddenly, 3 ladies appeared from behind. Yifeng glared at them with his spirit blood beast. They felt the pressure and coughed up blood before they could reach Yifeng. He warned that they shouldn't get in his way. A bald man appeared and declared that Yifeng's head was already his. Yifeng grumbled that he was so annoying. The blood the bald man spilled started to gather. The blood of the man that got sliced in half also moved towards it, same as the blood the ladies coughed up. Yifeng pointed out that Lang Si really didn't care about his subordinates. Lang Si responded that they were all there for the money anyways, so dead or alive, it didn't matter to him. Yifeng responded that it was his pleasure. He used his skill, demonic slaying technique, Demon Child. The Demon Child emerged from the blood that had gathered. More men surrounded Yifeng. The Demon Child grew excited as it lunged towards the enemies. The men charged towards Yifeng. Yifeng swung his arms and eliminated the men around him with his aura. On the other hand, the Demon Child bit one of the men in the head. It kicked the man behind it. Meanwhile, Lang Si simply observed the ensuing chaos calmly. Yifeng taunted that the men should come and be his meal. A few moments later, Yifeng managed to eliminate all men with the Demon Child and his spirit blood beast. Lang Si commented that it was where it would end. He admitted surprise that Yifeng was able to survive under the attack of 100 of his soldiers, and it was impressive. He had the ability and power to approach level S, but he wouldn't have a chance with him anyways. He was the real master with level S. Yifeng responded that it was great, and he was excited to see his endurance. Lang Si's attack tore through Yifeng's aura. Yifeng figured that he should hold on as it was not enough. He moved to the side and evaded Lang Si's attack. Lang Si added that it should be his pleasure to take his life personally. The spirit blood beast suddenly tackled Yifeng. It protected Yifeng and got hit by Lang Si's attack in his place. The Demon Child turned its attention towards the spirit blood beast. Yifeng muttered that it was whatever and it could eat it then. The Demon Child started chomping on the spirit blood beast. Yifeng demanded if he was ready to die. Lang Si retorted that he was just a mere ant and that they should see if he survived first. The Demon Child suddenly turned its attention to Lang Si. Lang Si insisted that Yifeng should stop torturing other people. Yifeng threw a slashing attack at Lang Si as a response. It was the real deal. He ordered that the Demon Child should go. The Demon Child summoned a scythe and charged forward. It waved the scythe in the air to block Lang Si's remaining attack. Yifeng declared that he would kill. Yifeng swung his sword at Lang Si. Lang Si fired his aura beam at him, but Yifeng landed his attack before he could release it. Lang Si grew enraged. Yifeng cursed and declared that he was strong, but he was still going to die that day. Lang Si remarked that it had been a long time since he had met a transmigrator as strong as him, and it was making him excited. No one ever felt worthy enough for him to ever get serious, and he was the first one. The aura he released from his body intensified. Yifeng dared him to come at him. He blocked the aura with his sword, but he was overpowered, and his sword was blown out of his hands. The Demon Child gripped the deck floor with all its might in order not to get blown away. Lang Si wondered if that was it and muttered that he was so disappointed. Yifeng stated that it was good and it was turning out the way he liked. He should have tried harder and teased if he did not eat enough or something, or if he needed to teach him how to use his fist. Lang Si commented that he sure was eager to die that day, and he will fulfill that wish of his. Yifeng just stood there and took everything directly as Lang Si bombarded him with punches. He scoffed and joked that he definitely didn't eat breakfast that day, if he wanted him to order a takeout for him. Lang Si grew so enraged that the veins on his eyes popped out. He cursed at Yifeng. Yifeng challenged if he was not using his powers anymore. If that was the case, it was already his turn. He threw Lang Si, and he crashed against the pole where Lin Lan was tied up. He commented that it was nice and they love prey that fights back, as it makes everything more interesting. Yifeng clarified that he is not one of them, by the way. Lang Si grabbed onto the pole and balanced himself. He vanished, which made Yifeng kick the pole and break it. The ropes came undone, and Lin Lan screamed as she fell off the pole. Yifeng assured her that she shouldn't be scared. He screamed in pain. He got hit by Lang Si's attack. Lin Lan apologized to Yifeng. He replied that it was not her fault, so she shouldn't worry and she should help him take Anzai away. She affirmed that she got it and he should leave it to her. She quickly ran to get Anzai. Lang Si wondered if that was her plan and sneered that they could die together. Yifeng urged that Lin Lan should be quick and take Anzai away. Lang Si declared that they were not allowed to leave until the marriage was completed. Yifeng exclaimed that, like hell, he will let that happen. Lang Si threatened that he will get rid of him first. Blood oozed out of Yifeng's eyes and mouth. Lang Si challenged if he was still trying to run and insisted that he should finish what he started because that woman in there is the cause of all problems. Yifeng gave no response and began falling to the floor. But suddenly, he noted that Lang Si was using such violent life force, and it was a good thing that his demonic slaying technique was able to absorb it. Lang Si widened his eyes in surprise when he saw a punch coming at him. Yifeng demanded how he dared to hurt his people and swore that he will regret being born. Lang Si was pushed back and skidded on the floor. He grabbed the bent pipe beside him. He plunged it at Yifeng, but Yifeng just caught it with his bare hands. Lang Si wondered how he suddenly became so strong. Yifeng explained that his aura is a form of energy, so he could use it as his own. He was his last step to becoming level S. Lang Si froze in shock, and he was unable to dodge Yifeng's attack. A few moments later, Yifeng went to where Lin Lan and Anzai were. He announced that he was back. Yifeng and the others were at the Bai mansion. A doctor conducted a checkup on him. Bai Yi insisted they should perform a thorough check on him, and while she wondered how he could come out completely unscathed after running into a monster like Lang Si, she remarked that there must be something wrong with his body, and Zai inquired what had happened there. Bai Yi mentioned that Yifeng had a fight with an old dude, and she was arranging for people to check if he was injured, so she figured that she might as well let them give her a checkup too. Meanwhile, Lin Lan questioned why Bai Yi was still so cheeky. Master Bai wondered if it wasn't great for young people to be so full of life. She brought up that they protected the Bai family while Yifeng went and defeated Lang Si, but she pondered whether the association won't come and create trouble for them in the future, as she heard that the Lang family holds an extremely high position in the association. Tong Zunner explained that the upper echelon of the association is the Jurisdiction Council, and many have not even heard of that name, yet Yifeng's family, the Yi family, holds most of the power in the council. Lin Lan wondered where she got all that information. Bai Yi explained that in their world, almost everything can't escape the eyes and ears of Wang of the Leaf. Yifeng believed that they guys should be able to take over all of the estates owned by the Lang and Gong families in Jiangxi without a hitch. It seemed like Fei Qian would be in for a hectic time. Master Bai commented that, as expected of someone he deemed worthy, it could be considered that Yifeng had firmly settled in Jiangxi at that time, but the association definitely would have other ideas, so it depended on whether he and his family wanted to bring it up. Yifeng stated there was no need, as he had his own plans. Evening came, and Lan Hanshuang was at her mansion. Lin Haoyuan wondered if she had come to a decision. She questioned if her brother was really dead. He countered by asking if she believed something recognized by the elders of the association could be fake. She raised the concern whether the Wang of the Leaf could really ensure her safety. He reminded her that she should know many people weren't happy with how the situation at that time was blown to such a huge scale, and her family originally had Lang Si, who was a peak fighting prowess, but since he wasn't around, many were eyeing her family's fortunes. She agreed to give him 90% of the Lang family's assets and requested that he protect her. He reassured her that she shouldn't worry because the Wang of the Leaf would definitely ensure her safety, and confirmed it was a deal. She proposed whether he could help her get rid of Yifeng and offered the remaining 10% as well. He criticized her for not knowing what was good for her because there was a big shot in the Wang of the Leaf who wanted Yifeng to stay alive, yet she dared to make such a request. She questioned how it could be the Wang of the Leaf. He revealed that Yifeng is a test subject who is doomed to die sooner or later, so she shouldn't be concerned. The next morning, Bai Yi went to the Lingyu group building. She reflected just how much influence the Wang of the Leaf even possessed, that even the Lingyu group belonged to them. She gazed at the stunning view of the city in front of her. Suddenly, Lin Haoyuan arrived. He inquired if she was there to give a progress report and how it was going with Yifeng. She explained that Yifeng recently handled some of the assets they just took over from the Gong and Lang family, so nothing much had happened. But she reconsidered and believed that Yifeng was investigating things related to Enzai, and she questioned just what secrets she holds. Lin Haoyuan cautioned that it wasn't a good place to talk, so they should go to his office. A few moments later, she checked if that place was okay. He warned that the things he would be telling her next might undermine all that she currently knew, and he tested whether she was mentally prepared for it. A few moments later, Bai Yi stood stunned by what she came to know about their world. Lin Haoyuan noted that there were some things she could let Yifeng know about if it was appropriate. After all, there were big shots who still had high expectations for him. She felt puzzled. On the other hand, Yifeng was at his residence. Tong Zunner called him and intended to share something about Enzai. He checked if she found something. She confirmed that indeed there was absolutely nothing suspicious about Enzai, but she bore too much resemblance to Huanger. He remarked that Bai Yi had just sent him a text stating that the Wang of the Leaf had some information that he wanted, but there was a catch, and Tong Zunner wondered what it was. They demanded the secrets of their mystical star Gongfa. She warned that he must not give it to them. He challenged whether not just anyone could learn his Gongfa. On the other hand, Lin Haoyuan instructed Bai Yi to look for a place to meet at 3 o'clock the next day.
Yefeng lounged in the car with Unshi, the ride humming softly under them. He stepped out a moment later, his movements casual. She reminded him that someone tried to ambush him just yesterday, pressing if it wasn't reckless for him to show up at the park, and he brushed it off by saying it was fine since he was meeting a friend. She pressed again, doubting if it was true. Tong Shuner suddenly cut in with a bold edge, declaring that she wished to stick by him forever to shield him. Meanwhile, Bai Yi stayed with Master Bai. She wondered aloud why Ye Feng hadn't arrived yet. Out of nowhere, he teased if she missed him that much, tossing in that she'd have to cough up an appointment fee to meet him now. She countered that they were already close enough and nudged him to at least give her a discount. She then suggested they head inside to talk properly. The three of them stepped in, where Lin Haoyuan waited with practiced composure. He greeted them smoothly. Ye Feng shot Bai Yi a glance, pointing out that she promised they would be alone. She sidestepped and introduced Lin Haoyuan. as the deputy head of the Assembly of Wanhe's Jiangdong branch. Lin Haoyuan gestured that standing around was pointless and invited them to sit. Ye Feng brushed it off, saying he didn't care for tea, so they should just cut it short since he only wanted 2 pieces of information. And in return, he'd trade 1 part of the mystical star Gongfa. Lin Haoyuan remarked that it seemed he carried a bias against the Assembly of Wanhe. Ye Feng admitted that some of their parasites had crept into his house the other night under the cover of the darkness, so he wiped them out, and he hoped it wouldn't cause offense. Lin Haoyuan demanded clarity. Bai Yi quickly explained that it was likely Shuoxing's factor. Ye Feng told them they could treat last night's mess as already handled, but Lin Haoyuan would still need to answer his 2 questions. Lin Haoyuan assured him that as long as it was within his reach and knowledge, he could go ahead. Ye Feng cut to the first question, pressing if Anxi was truly a transmigrator. Lin Haoyuan replied that since he already knew the origins of that world, he would answer straight. She was. But her case was unusual, and he couldn't reveal more. Ye Feng's gaze burned into him. He then shifted to the next point, bluntly asking if they would interfere if he disposed of his own family. Bai Yi froze in shock, while Lin Haoyuan fell mute. Moments later, Master Bai nudged him, asking if Ye Feng really aimed to seize the Ye family head's position. Lin Haoyuan answered that since the Ye family shared close ties with the Assembly of Wanhe, that was likely his motive. Bai Yi pressed if the Yi family wielded that much sway. Lin Haoyuan confirmed with weight that the Ye family ranked among the top families in the country. Their influence stretched across every business and industry, and their power was staggering. She considered Ye Feng strangely captivating, realizing that before even clashing with the Deviant Association, he was already gearing up against his own bloodline. Somewhere else, Ye Feng sneezed abruptly. Anxi asked if he was alright, and he brushed it off, saying he was fine and just lost in some thoughts. His mind churned, realizing Anxi wasn't Huang but rather just a fragment of her. He remembered the fate that befell Huang. He figured her soul had already shattered, and Anxi only carried a piece of it, leaving their connection blurred and uncertain. Suddenly, Poison Wolf called out to him, reporting that he had tracked down what he was told to find. Ye Feng pressed him if he uncovered a clue and demanded its location. Poison Wolf revealed that it lay within the Deviant Association's headquarters. Ye Feng told him not to waste time and to retrieve it straight away. Then he shifted, instructing that Anxi be sent back home while he had things of his own to settle. By evening, Ye Feng drove himself to the Deviant Association headquarters. The guard at the gate asked to see his banquet invitation. Ye Feng handed over his card without hesitation. The guard greeted him politely and waved him through. Inside the car, Tong Shuner turned to him, pressing what he actually planned to do. He laid it out that the association's treasure vault hid the item they were after. She remarked that she and the ghosts had battled the association for ages and never uncovered such secrets, demanding how he managed it. He brushed it off with a sly remark that it was a secret. She frowned, baffled. She then admitted to herself that he really was something else. Tong Shuner stepped into the banquet, her movements carrying a casual grace that drew attention whether she wanted it or not. She kept mulling over what exactly Ye Feng's scheme might be, figuring that the Assembly of Wanhe had only stepped in to clean up the Lung family mess but would never lift a finger when it came to the association. She reached out without a second thought and grabbed a glass of wine, her fingers closing neatly around the stem. But Bai Yi moved fast and snatched it right out of her hand, a sharp little act that carried its own kind of bite. She remarked that she hadn't expected to bump into her in such a place, almost as if fate had twisted the threads tighter than intended. Tong Shuner pressed her bluntly on what exactly she wanted from her. Bai Yi muttered that they should leave this noisy spot since another place would be quieter, and there they could get to the point. Meanwhile, Ye Feng crouched on the roof above, watching with a predator's patience. He muttered that this spot should do the trick. He urged them to move quickly and sweep the place for clues. The swarm of fireflies darted in a shimmering flow straight in down the chimney. One slipped through the crowd and streaked toward Bai Yi like it had been drawn to her. He clicked his tongue in annoyance, muttering that the Bai family's girl had shown up too, which meant the Assembly of Wanhe had sharper insight than expected. Back at the banquet, Bai Yi remarked in a low, grim tone that Anxi's soul was bleeding away bit by bit, and if the missing fragments weren't found soon, she would scatter completely and vanish forever. Tong Shuner reminded her that Ye Feng surely knew this as well and pressed her if that was his true reason for being there that day. Bai Yi admitted that she had soul-condensing incense on hand and hinted that it would be useful for the crisis. Tong Shuner demanded to know why she hadn't simply handed it over directly to Ye Feng. Bai Yi confessed that whenever she crossed paths with him, the urge to hurl curses at him was too strong to ignore. Ye Feng muttered, with an edge that the girl clearly hadn't let go of her grudge against him. Then, out of the blue, he caught sight of his fireflies clustering together tightly. They had discovered the vault, and now they danced freely before it, like sparks waiting to ignite. He muttered that something felt off, wondering aloud why there wasn't a single camera watching this area. But he brushed it aside, dismissing it as irrelevant. The fireflies suddenly surged together and morphed into Zhao Heng's figure. He stood tall before the vault, his stance radiating sharp intent. He swung his fist forward and raw power coiled around it as he smashed it against the vault's surface. Ye Feng observed with a sharp glint that it was interesting. Hyoshin sex territory, yet the strength of their defenses didn't impress him. He invoked his break technique, the force tearing into the vault door until a gaping hole cracked open. The clone slipped inside and started inspecting the treasure hoard hidden within. Stacks of wealth gleamed before him, gold coins and relics piled high in abundance. Ye Feng reflected grimly that at least half of that fortune came from the plunder when he raised the exoplanet sex during his time on the mystical star. That world still buried far too many secrets, and he had to dig them up carefully, though Huanger's soul remained his true priority above all. Then, the clone stiffened, sensing a presence lurking right behind him. It didn't get the chance to move because a strike tore through its defenses before it could dodge. Ye Feng muttered under his breath if this was an ambush. The man sneered that breaking into the association's vault was never going to be simple. He pressed if it was a blood clone carrying mystical cultivation. He dismissed it as meaningless, griping that he was exhausted and the intruder should just screw off. The clone bristled, on edge and tense. It erupted in an instant, collapsing into dust and vanishing. Ye Feng demanded why Hyoshin Sek's ancient monster had appeared here and how his cultivation had recovered to that extent, muttering that he was only S rank, while his foe had already stepped far beyond what he could measure. But he hardened his resolve, swearing he wouldn't quit, and that he would rescue Huanger no matter what stood in the way. He dropped down decisively to confront the figure face to face. The man mocked that he had told him to get lost, yet he still came down, calling him gutsy and demanding to know his name, since he didn't bother wasting effort on nobodies. Ye Feng shot back, calling him nothing more than leftover scum from Hyoshin sect and sneering at his big mouth. The man pressed if he was one of the mystical star's remnants and ordered him to spit out his last words quickly. Suddenly, a surge of light and darkness exploded into being right in front of him. He staggered, clearly caught off guard by the sudden force. On the other side, Ye Feng pushed himself hard, straining with raw exertion. The man braced for the hit, muscles tight and ready, but his eyes widened in confusion when the twin energy swirled around him without striking. Ye Feng roared for them to converge, invoking his fusing drill of the netherworld. He declared that these were the true gates of hell opening before him, and he should focus on repentance within their depths. The man noticed with dread that the drill shot straight for him like a merciless beast. He clenched his jaw hard enough to ache and thrust his hand forward. He summoned a skill to halt its advance, sparks of force colliding in the air. Ye Feng declared with chilling certainty that long ago he had wiped out the Hyoshin sect for their endless crimes in the mystical star, so this one too would perish here for his own pile of evil. The man's gut twisted with unease. He pressed nervously about what kind of thing this was and why it held such ruinous strength. Ye Feng lunged in that distracted moment while he remained locked against the drill. He drove his hand savagely into the man's chest. The man demanded in horror how such a thing could even happen. Ye Feng retorted that the Hyoshin sect only preached values on the surface, while their actions insulted even dogs and pigs. So letting the chi of the netherworld finish them was nothing but justice. The man pleaded that he should be spared, swearing to handle all the filthy work for him. But Ye Feng dismissed him sharply as already worthless. He flung him into the wall with a surge of dark energy that rattled the room. He remarked with cold amusement that plenty of familiar faces waited in that world, and he would look forward to meeting them. He strolled into another chamber where the cauldron rested. His chest lifted with sharp relief and wild hope when his eyes landed on it. He proclaimed that this was the soul-gathering cauldron, just as expected, and Poison Wolf's report had nailed it. But in the middle of his triumph, the man's enraged face flared suddenly behind him. He stiffened at once as the presence crashed over him. Before he could gather himself, the man's punch hammered him, throwing him hard to the floor. The man jeered whether he was ready to be tortured to death after daring such a savage strike. Ye Feng shot back with contempt, asking if he still wasn't finished, and if he truly thought anyone cared to listen to his garbage. The man snarled that he should die. The blast from his punch tore dust and debris through the chamber. Ye Feng coolly declared that the man had no right to stand against him, and he had exactly 3 seconds to decide how he'd like to die. But the man barked that Ye Feng would be the one to die first. Ye Feng slid effortlessly aside from the strike, his body loose as water. He clamped onto the man's arm and slammed him down with brutal force. He growled that if death awaited him, then the man would be dragged into it as well. Any chance of hope for the man had already died out. The man gaped in astonishment at what Ye Feng could unleash. Ye Feng reminded him that the Hyoshin sect was infamous after all for being a shameless group always parading false virtue. Ghostly forms snaked themselves around the man's body. Ye Feng revealed that to crush the Hyoshin sect back then, the mystical star had sacrificed 100,000 lives and forged their resentment into a gongfa. They became the dreaded heaven-conquering ghosts. The mystical star should have wiped them out completely, he remarked, but leaving them an escape had been the chief's grave mistake. He carried the heaviest burden for mystical star, and his stone likeness likely still knelt in disgrace. The man shrieked in torment as the ghosts closed in. Ye Feng pivoted away from him without hesitation. He voiced his surprise at such a treasure being here, and finally, he saw a spark of hope for Huang Er. He concluded coldly that the man would have a new home awaiting him down in hell. The ghosts raised their spectral weapons ready to drive them home. Blood poured onto the floor in brutal testament. Ye Feng swore that he would uncover the full truth of what befell the mystical star. Moments later, they were walking out of the headquarters. Bai Yi remarked that Ye Feng looked cheerful and pressed if he discovered something worthwhile. Tong Shuner followed up, asking if he got what he needed. He bounced the question back, probing what they thought. Suddenly, their car smashed head-on into a statue. Ye Feng cursed aloud while climbing out of the wreck. The statue loomed unshaken under the pale wash of moonlight. He muttered with a sharp edge if it was a gargoyle. Ye Feng lifted his gaze at the looming statue with a cool, sharp look. The gargoyle lunged in with its stone fist swinging straight at him. Before the blow could land, he drove his knee hard into its chin with brutal precision. It toppled off balance and smashed down onto the ground. Ye Feng remarked that both of them better just stay right there. He launched himself off the car with a sudden burst of movement. He touched down a distance away, putting space between them. The statue lifted into the air and locked onto him in pursuit. He observed with a bite of amusement that it was perfect, since the thing only wanted him and chased him over here. It drove a punch into the ground right in front of him. Concrete shattered beneath his feet as he dropped low to slip past the impact. He sprinted up along the length of the statue's arm like it was nothing. He admitted he still had no clue who had sent it, but he shrugged it off as irrelevant. He hammered his fist down with such force that the statue crashed into the earth. He then barked out at Shi Yingtian to quit hiding and pressed if he only had the guts to send a pet after him. Shi Yingtian remarked with a cold edge that he actually managed to sniff him out. He pressed if they really went through the trouble of dragging him here just to bother with a brat. Ye Feng retorted that at last he showed his face. He demanded to know who sent him to deal with him and tagged him Mohawk Head. Shi Yingtian announced himself as the heir apparent, the 67th generation sect leader of the Great Heavenly Sect, and he bragged it was him who raided the association's treasure vault and killed his disciple, tossing the Mohawk Head jab back at him. Ye Feng recognized Shi Yingtian with a grim edge, musing how amusing it was that he turned up too, since he had already killed him years ago. And yet, back then, he still needed to end him the same way. The two squared off for a beat, gauging each other's weight. Abruptly, Shi Yingtian snapped that he should go straight to hell. Ye Feng slipped around the strike with little effort. He quipped that he was tired of seeing that tired trick of his. But Shi Yingtian fired back that no, it wasn't that trick. Ye Feng suddenly sensed something looming behind him. He was caught off guard and failed to evade the statue's crushing strike. Meanwhile, Tong Shuner sat in the car watching the chaos unfold. Bai Yi pressed her nervously on what they should be doing right now. Tong Shuner brushed it off, insisting it would be fine and she didn't need to stress. She clenched inside though, holding firm that no harm should come to Ye Feng. Back in the clash, Ye Feng was slammed down hard into the ground. The statue pressed its weight against him, locking down his movements. Shi Yingtian sneered and asked whoever claimed he had just one pet. Two statues now stood together, bearing down on Ye Feng to restrain him. Yet Ye Feng roared out and ripped free of their hold with sheer force. Shi Yingtian blinked at the shock of it, but then his mouth curved into a confident smile. He pulled another statue into shield against Ye Feng's punch. Ye Feng's eyes widened with surprise. The statue hammered him back with a punch that sent him plummeting. Another statue lunged in and stretched its arm to seize him. Ye Feng clenched his jaw as the statue's grip crushed around him. It hurled him off like a rag. Shi Yingtian taunted him with the cold question of who claimed he had only 2 pets. He then unleashed the pentacle formation. A violent surge of power shot down from the heavens and smashed into the ground. Ye Feng screamed out as the force tore through him, but flames surged up and devoured the energy. Shi Yingtian demanded to know what he was looking at. His face twisted in shock as his eyes locked onto Ye Feng. He pressed in disbelief on how that could even be possible. Ye Feng stood untouched, a faintly twisted grin curling on his lips. He flashed that grin wider, the kind that promised pain. Shi Yingtian called him a devil and pressed if he was the same guy the Alliance kept under constant surveillance. He declared that he could finally deliver his long-awaited revenge. Ye Feng raised his arm, letting a surge of dark aura rip through the air like a violent storm. Shi Yingtian staggered backward under the crushing force. The power slammed into him so hard that a low groan slipped out of his throat. Ye Feng remarked that he had become pitifully weak. Then he leapt toward the statue's massive head. He drove his foot straight into its face with ruthless precision. Shi Yingtian reeled from the hit, blood spilling from his mouth. He urged him to stop right there before it went too far. Ye Feng revealed that he had tied his vitality directly to his puppet. He admitted it was clever, but called it stupid at the same time. Shi Yingtian demanded to know how he suddenly gained the strength of an S+ rank despite being an only S rank. Ye Feng shrugged it off, saying he hadn't done anything special. He simply devoured everyone he crossed paths with. Shi Yingtian froze, his shock etched deep across his face. Then his nerves spiked as Ye Feng darted toward him with frightening speed. He barked an order for his puppets to regroup instantly. They encircled Ye Feng in a blur, but he didn't even flinch. One statue lunged from behind with a vicious strike. Ye Feng twisted sharply, slicing the thing apart with one brutal swing. He taunted Shi Yingtian, wondering if he had run out of tricks to show off. Then he plunged his hand straight into his torso with cold precision. A burst of dark energy erupted violently from his body. He crashed onto the ground, lifeless under the crushing blow. Ye Feng coldly stated that even if he transmigrated again, death would still find him at his hands. But Grandma Shan cut in, telling him not so fast. She approached calmly with 2 bodyguards trailing close behind. A faint smile played across her face as she looked at him. He demanded to know what she was doing there. Ye Feng confirmed if she was indeed Grandma Shan. He landed on the ground, eyes narrowing at her presence. He challenged her, questioning who she was to meddle in that fight. Shi Yingtian butted in, urging her to finish that bastard quickly. Grandma Shan snapped back that he should shut his mouth. Shi Yingtian fell silent, his courage draining instantly. Ye Feng, however, tensed at the sudden shift. He wondered who this old woman really was. He noted that the aura she radiated nearly matched his strength before he transmigrated. Grandma Shan acknowledged him as Ye Feng and mentioned she came on behalf of the Alliance elders to convey their greetings. Ye Feng questioned what the elders wanted. She clarified that they bore no hostility, as the Alliance was founded for defense, though he challenged her by asking if attacking Guimen counted as defense. She countered that he was mistaken, explaining it wasn't an attack but a test, to see if he was worthy of joining their ranks. After all, in any world, survival belonged only to the strongest. Ye Feng's gaze darkened as old memories stirred. It made him pause, his mind flickering through fragments of the past. She continued, saying it was all a misunderstanding, and her subordinate had overstepped. She'd deal with him later. She then invited him to consider joining the Alliance. He refused without hesitation. She accepted it casually, saying that was fine and they'd meet again. Ye Feng then answered Poison Wolf's call. Dulang's tense voice told him that something was happening to An Shi's soul and he needed to return immediately. Shi Yingtian pressed Grandma Shan about whether they should rough Ye Feng up a little since he kept turning them down, but she waved him off, saying there was no need and he might as well let him go for now. He frowned and pushed further, wanting to know why the elders had even sent him to look for him. She remarked that their intentions were already clear enough for everyone to see. Another elder chimed in, pretending confusion and asking what she was getting at. She snapped that he should quit pretending because he was the one who had told Shi Yingtian to stir trouble for Ye Feng. She added that he shouldn't act like she couldn't see right through his schemes. He retorted, challenging whether she still needed to scold them when all they did was for the association's safety. She shot back that she knew he was using Zhao Heng for his personal gain. Ye Feng stayed utterly locked in, working to knit her soul back together. She remained unconscious, shrouded in flickering light. Then Tong Shuner's voice cut through, announcing to Ye Feng that she had returned. He collapsed to his knees as his energy drained away. Poison Wolf noted shakily that her condition looked better. Ye Feng muttered that he had only managed to stabilize her soul for now, and he still needed more materials to finish the process. Tong Shuner pressed him about what materials he meant. He replied that he required the soul-soothing needle. She asked where they were supposed to find something so rare. She added that even back in Mystical Star, treasures like that were nearly impossible to come by. He stated that he would craft one himself. Poison Wolf gaped and asked if he truly planned to forge it personally. Tong Shuner warned that making it would take massive resources and money, then questioned if he wanted them to go gather the materials. Ye Feng rose to his feet. He decided he should check with Fei Qian first to see what was happening on that side. The moment Fei Qian answered, a loud crash boomed through the line. Ye Feng tensed instantly. Poison Wolf stiffened too. Fei Qian's voice came through in panic, shouting that President Ye was walking into an ambush. Ye Feng barked at him to explain. Fei Qian called out his name again in terror. Then Zhao Heng materialized behind him. Fei Qian let out a strangled cry before his phone hit the ground. Zhao Heng had him by the throat, hoisting him off his feet with terrifying ease. Fei Qian's phone lay shattered on the floor. Ye Feng remarked that the connection was cut. Tong Shuner insisted he should go and leave the rest to her. He agreed, then turned to Poison Wolf and told him to follow. Moments later, they arrived at the bar. Ye Feng questioned why the place was completely empty. He spotted Fei Qian, and Poison Wolf commented that it seemed nothing had happened. Fei Qian noticed them and inquired if they were there. Ye Feng pressed him about what had gone on while muttering to Poison Wolf to stay alert because something felt wrong. Fei Qian claimed nothing occurred. Ye Feng caught on to the truth. He swiftly grabbed Poison Wolf by the shirt. Zhao Heng was about to strike from above. Ye Feng ordered him to take Fei Qian and run. Poison Wolf was sent flying through the air. Ye Feng turned to face Zhao Heng. He snapped that he should stop wasting time. Meanwhile, Fei Qian groaned as Poison Wolf crashed into him. Poison Wolf muttered that things looked bad and urged him to wake up. At the same time, Ye Feng remarked that on closer look, they had crossed paths before. Zhao Heng only stared back in silence. Ye Feng pressed if he had no explanation and declared he would not hold back any longer. Zhao Heng unleashed his energy to attack. Ye Feng matched it instantly. Their powers collided. Meanwhile, Poison Wolf worried for him as he carried Fei Qian away. Back in the fight, Ye Feng's energy sliced through Zhao Heng's. Zhao Heng quickly stepped back. Ye Feng's form shifted. He declared he would treat his actions as those of whoever controlled him. Zhao Heng retorted that he would not answer any questions. Ye Feng stated he would take that as confirmation. He summoned his scythe. The building trembled violently. Poison Wolf grew alarmed as the ground shook beneath their path. He glanced back to see what was happening. Meanwhile, Tong Shuner remained at the hospital, and she groaned in agony. Tong Shuner fretted over her. She mentioned her condition was worsening again and she would not last much longer like that. Master Bai suddenly entered. He declared he would handle things there, telling her to go. She questioned why he appeared. He explained his niece had asked him to drop by and check on them. He added that the Bai family protected the entire Zhengdong hospital. He asked if she was not deeply concerned about Ye Feng. He urged her to hurry along. She expressed her gratitude to him and the Bai family. Meanwhile, Ye Feng continued the fight back at the bar. He broke through the roof to get outside. He landed safely on the ground. He admitted he had underestimated that guy.